I can tell you the kind of the little recipe there because I used it now on the new Nocturnal Breed album, and it's a bit like I talked about earlier. On that first couple of years for all the band, there is no restrictions. There is only this will to make something as good as the other guys, or even maybe better. And I think inside all our heads, we had giant symphonic, dark things going on. But we were all limited to fucking shit equipment, tiny little PV speakers, with 15 watts. What the fuck are you going to do with this thing? And you have the other guy on a Casio keyboard player. What do? Well, you put everything into speaker and you turn up the echoes, because the echoes and the reverbs, it makes it all kind of blend much more. You don't hear how crap your equipment is. And that's basically all the really fucking brilliant albums. They are made with shit equipment.
Greetings, friends, and welcome to episode 178 of Into the Necrosphere. This week, I'm joined by my good friend and brother, Kenneth Svartalv Halvorsen, frontman for Nocturnal Breed, also formerly of the legendary Gehenna, to talk about the upcoming Nocturnal Breed record, Carry the Beast. He also shared with me some more insights and stories from the Norwegian black metal scene, and we spoke about a whole lot more besides. You all know, if you listen to his first appearance on the podcast, that it was an absolute blast. This one was no different, and it will be coming your way very shortly. Before we get to that, though, Necrofilosophy are a group of fresh-faced lads out of Brazil who reached out to me on Instagram recently and told me that it would be their absolute honor if I checked out their debut record. The record is Contemplations of the Seven Philosophical Foundations. The name is a mouthful, but so is the music, and inexplicably, this is independent, which is why I now present it to you, the Legions, by way of one of my favorite songs by this band, The Elder Serpent Metaphor.
It's
That was The Elder Serpent Metaphor by Necrofilosophy out of Brazil. The album is called Contemplations of the Seven Philosophical Foundations, released independently on December 14th, 2022. And a big thanks to those guys for reaching out to me. Hope you guys enjoyed the song too, and I will post a link to their Bandcamp in the description of the podcast. So go over to them, show them some love, check out their music. Great stuff, and a great way to get us started on what is going to be an absolutely epic show. If you are new to the podcast and you like what you hear, please do consider elbow dropping the subscribe button on your podcasting platform of choice, whether that be YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, or Apple. Keep those 5-star reviews coming if the spirit moves you to do so. And if you truly want to show your love and support for the podcast, then head over to the Into the Necrosphere Teespring store. Check out some of the designs that I've got on there. I have got a classic Into the Necrosphere logo t-shirt, as well as a Jason Pepiat of Psychroptic fame designed t-shirt. So cool stuff, more to come. And to everybody that has bought any of the merchandise that I'm selling on there, massive thank you. All of the money that you have spent gets plowed straight back into the podcast. Most importantly, I am part of a shadowy group of like-minded men who produce podcast content on a weekly basis to keep you entertained. I speak, of course, of the horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse, and galloping into view first every Monday is my good friend Brandon Legion, bringing you Horrorwolf 666. Every Tuesday, yours truly casts hexes and slays poses on Into the Necrosphere. Every Wednesday, Mike Hill of Tombs and Scorpion Throne brings you the longest-running podcast in our ranks, Everything Went Black. He returns every Thursday with one of my favorite podcasts of the week, Necromaniacs, alongside his co-hosts Jeff Kashid and Mike Scandato. And then every Sunday, the Reverend Carl Haikara brings you the arcane, the weird, and the esoteric on his weekly podcast, Soul Knox. More than enough there to keep you away from the more subversive elements on the internet. And if you can follow all of those folks on the socials and subscribe to them, we greatly appreciate it. Next week, my friends, I'm going to be talking to Nathaniel Underwood of the band Damn Him. He was, for those of you that have been following the podcast for a substantial period of time, my second ever guest on the show, and we had an absolute blast recording another conversation. A highly intelligent guy, and Damn Him, of course, is a completely and utterly ripping band. So make sure you are back next week for that. Also, make sure that you stick around after my conversation with Svartalv. No review this week. There will be one next week, but this week I will almost certainly have been. It would have been remiss of me not to give you a fully throated installment of my weekly news rant. So that's coming straight after my conversation with Svartalv. For now, though, sit back and enjoy as I welcome back to the show my good friend S.A. Destroyer. So first and most importantly, because it's been a little while since we've spoken now, how's everything been going with you? You've been through winter, or I mean, is it still dark and cold and freezing where you are?
No, we are actually getting it's light outside until like I don't know 10, 11 in the evening now.
Yeah.
But still, like just a couple hours ago, I was with the family up in the forest, and we were actually been taking a swim today.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, 8
Dude, it
degrees.
sounds like it's warmer over there than it is over here. It's like middle of May, and I still had to switch the heating on the other day.
Yeah, but I did that here the other night as well because the ice left this water in I don't know a couple of weeks ago only, so it was only 8, 9 degrees around there. So
Yeah.
it was just like everyone was just underneath screaming and then coming up again. But as I asked about winter, when I was driving home, I saw snow in the in the mountainsides next to us. So winter is not like properly gone, but I've been sunbathing out in the garden.
No, I have a couple of associates in
Sorry.
Colorado, and it's like fucking. I saw somebody post something on Instagram the other day, and it was basically like a full blown like borderline blizzard that they were forming. I was like, this is insane. That it's like the seasons definitely seem to have sort of pushed their way over into like a different part of the year. Like the timing of the season seems to have changed a little bit.
Yeah, you see it with the tornado seasons and stuff in the States as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just lasting now, for months instead of just like punching once. It's punching 10 times instead. So, but it's been like that here too, but not as much. But it's windy all the time. I don't know if it's like that all over the fucking planet, but it's constantly fucking windy. It's really fucking annoying.
Oh, wind, dark is perfect time to be writing black, or perfect weather for black metal.
Yeah, in that
But
sense
you
it is.
survived another winter out there in the middle of nowhere, then, which is good news.
Yeah.
I don't know if I asked you last time, but what got you out living in the forest? Because you're not like I've spoken to a fair few folks from Scandinavia, and I actually work with a lot of people from Scandinavia as well. You don't strike me as a particularly introverted guy. Um,
Uh,
but
actually,
I might be wrong, but I mean, you were pretty talkative last time we caught up.
I think that is because I'm really not around people at all. So when I get the chance to talk to people, and when it's good people like you, I
Yeah,
just kind of explode because my mind is going, 1,000 miles an hour every day, every night, all the time. So and I spend my time with my family, and 80% of the time I spend alone. So when I get to talk to someone, I can be pretty, out there and talking to people. But what got me out here was people, just too much people, and I don't like the vibe that Oslo took on, and I don't know. I'm old and grumpy like that, but I think the modern world is just creeping into fucking everything, and in the cities, it's just more prominent and in your
yeah,
face. And being Norwegian, we always been out into the nature stuff, and it's always been calling to me since I was a kid. And of course, we have cabins in family cabins in the mountains, and so it was just one of those. My daughter, she decided that she wanted to live in Oslo with her mom, and she was 15 or 14, 15. And then I just saw the opportunity to, well, okay, then I can do what I feel like here. And my partner she felt like the same thing as well. So it was just like, okay, fuck it. And
yeah,
it worked. But you have to take a kind of Twin Peaks kind of mentality, mindset to it. You can't come up here and, be all city slicker thing. That's not just in the movies. Suddenly
yeah.
you're gonna hear those banjo things going ding 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 ding, and you're gonna be beat up. So
Someone's
you,
gonna
you,
get a hold of you and go, "Squeal, piggy, squeal."
yeah, they don't give a shit that I play in bands or whatever I
Yeah,
do. You have people coming to you and like, yeah, I hear you're playing this pop orchestra kind of thing, and just, yeah, whatever. I'm not even gonna explain. Just, I'm a dude from Oslo. Okay, leave it
yeah,
at that.
yeah,
But I
yeah. No,
just enjoy it.
I'm definitely by no means an introvert, but I can go for days, if not weeks, without really speaking to or seeing anybody, and I'd be perfectly happy.
Yeah,
So for me, like living out in the countryside where I live, I mean, I'm not in. I wouldn't say it's entirely, kind of backwoods UK, but it's certainly reasonably removed from civilization. And like I said to you, the only thing I have close to me is a small village. I don't really interact with anybody there.
yeah,
Um, and I kind of prefer it that way. It's one of the things that I hated the most about London in the end was how on top of everybody you are.
yeah.
I can't deal with it. I don't
Uh,
want to have to constantly see people everywhere that I go. London people tend to be pretty keep to themselves. They don't really talk much anyway.
no, I know.
But
I like that part about it. I
yeah,
really
but
like. But
it,
I think I don't know. It's for me. It's like I'm crawling through everyone's energy all the time when I'm in a city. It's just
yeah.
you know intrusive to my own thoughts and mind, and I feel I'm like living on top of everyone and feeling everyone and everything. And I don't know. I don't like that.
It's the hive mind mentality that I dislike so
Yeah,
much. I can get
yeah,
on with the vast majority of people. You could be the most woke human being, and I could probably sit down and have a pretty decent conversation with that person one on one, right? And I can do that with most people. Like no matter their personality, no matter what their likes or dislikes, I can get on a one to one level with most people. But I find that when people start grouping together, then
yeah,
the herd always gravitates towards the lowest IQ in the room,
yeah.
and then
It does.
and then the bigger the group gets, the more pronounced that herd mentality becomes, and I can't stand it. It's been one of
No.
the things that from a like working in the corporate world and in a professional environment, you're expected to be able to network, you're expected to be able to talk to people and socialize in groups like that. And I fucking despise it. I've never gotten used to it. I've survived because, like I said, because one-to-one I can get on well with people, but in groups I can't stand it. I hate it.
No, I like you. I can turn on that switch, and do all the stuff and say all the things and stuff like that. But it's doing that, it really fucking drains me to do that kind of shit. And I was a lone dad for so many years with my daughter, for more than 10 years. And then you have to do all that shit, you have to go to school meetings and board meetings and all kinds of shit. And you basically just want to beat up some other parents sitting next to you. And you just have to keep the cool, say the right shit, or, someone's going to come and check up on you, So you have to play that fucking, sheep herd fucking thing. And that's probably one of the reasons I moved into the city, not into the woods as well, because, I was just fucking done with it. Running my own company and running the band, being a dad, doing all that kind of shit. Just, I'm not normal. Suddenly I came to the realization that, I'm not normal, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm fucking normal anymore, because that takes away half my life just pretending shit,
yeah. Well, it's called life optimization. Like like the old days when you had to optimize your computer's hard drive. And like, I always think about it from that perspective. You always saw that graphic with like the heads moving up, and as it's moving the bytes down to like, I can't even remember the wording, but it's like clusters into 3 bytes or whatever the fuck. But like I see it, I see it from that perspective. It's like, I'm optimizing my life, removing certain things and certain people and certain things, and certainly from like how much I interact with people. My life is organized in such a way that I only have to really engage with people I like, or people that I have to speak to for work. But so you and your daughter, did she live with you in the mountains for a period of time, and then she decided to move to Oslo?
No, we live down in the fjords at a place called Sandefjord. It's 1.5 hour outside Oslo. I lived with her.
Yeah.
And then when she wanted to go to Oslo, I just continued 3 more hours up the road. But basically, it was only me and her, and we had we had a nice place, house down by the sea and little pier with a little boat, and I had the whole thing, 2 cars and debts and the whole thing.
yeah. Did you drive the kind of cars that Saturn cruises around in, the 992 GTS? I think he's got a 992 GTS, and I don't know what he's got 2 Porsches. I know.
Yeah, I drive a 4-wheel drive because I live in the middle of nowhere. But I have a Mitsubishi Outlander, man. I don't need that Porsche stuff. They get with all that computer shit inside that car. You come up here and you get 40 minus. You can take that computer and shove it up your ass, because that car is not going to start up here.
See, I will admit I'm a bit of a I like creature comforts when it comes to cars. So I've got a BMW, and I've got, I mean, there's like all the tech you can imagine inside that car, and I fucking love it. I mean, I've got a friend who's a real purist. Like he's very well off. He's a man of means, but when he buys cars, he tends to buy things that are like 2012 and younger, because he doesn't like all the driver assistance and all of this stuff that you get with newer cars. But for me, I want it to be as space age as possible within reason. I still like the sensation of driving. I don't like electric cars. I really hate them. So I still want to hear the engine and feel the engine, but I want all my other shit around me, screens and stuff, fancy stuff. But I will concede, there have been times living in the countryside where I have kind of thought to myself, I'm not really sure my car is suited to this environment, because even though I'm not having to go off-road too much, even if I go off-road a little bit, for example, like those low-profile tires will pick up stones, and then the next thing you know, you hear this inside the fucking,
and you get it in between your brakes, and that really started. No, there's a reason why all your neighbors have Land Rovers, mate.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, so Paige, my fiance, she's got a Freelander, but it's not for me. I like smaller cars. I like smaller, faster cars. I like to feel like I could kind of shove in front of people if I go. So
my partner, she has a Volvo V70. really pumped down low one that goes a million miles an hour thing. So she takes care of that part, and I
Yeah,
have that big thing that can climb up the mountain kind of stuff.
yeah. So your daughter, is she? How old is she now? If you don't mind me asking.
Oh, she turns 26 in a month.
Oh wow, okay, and obviously you guys spent a lot of time together. How did she feel about her dad's musical endeavors?
She's really cool about it. Of course, it's kind of natural for her because she's just been around it.
Mm,
And I used to bring her, to the gigs when she was smaller, and she was there when we were rigging up. And I was working with concerts as well, so she's been with me rigging for Sting, and that kind of stuff. So she's
mm.
always been around it. So she was never like wowed about it. She never turned into a metalhead, which is typical.
I was just about to ask you, just out of curiosity, what did she gravitate towards? Because my daughter, so when she was very little, she was massively like the two things that she loved more than anything: ACDC and Pantera. And
Yeah.
Pantera, she would literally sit in the car before she couldn't even talk properly, and she would just keep repeating walk, 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 and then I have to
Cool.
play walk again. And it's like, but
Yeah.
as she's grown older, I've started hearing names like Jojo Siwa and fucking all sorts of other bullshit. And I was like, I'm not playing any of that crap in my car, and I'm not playing any of that shit in the house. So I
No,
was
it's
curious as to what, girl that's grown up around that, what she might gravitate towards.
oh, she started out pretty good actually with that because since I was collecting records, she was hanging with me in the record stores, and
Mm.
then she wanted to collect secondhand records. So up until she was like 9, 10, she had Kiss was a big thing, Twisted Sister, Bee Gees, Tom Jones was her big fucking hero. She's
Really?
been yeah, she went to see him and Dolly Parton, with her grandma when she was, I don't know, 9 or something like that. And
Wowzers. Dude, Dolly
then
Parton is still kicking it at the age of 77.
yeah, I saw
I
her not too
could
long
not
ago.
fucking believe it. Like I saw a clip the other day. I think it was at the Country Music Awards.
Yeah,
And I was
I
like, I
think I
cannot
saw the
fucking
same
believe
thing.
she's still 77 years old and she's still,
Yeah.
still going.
Yeah, she's bringing it. She's not missing a fucking step when she's going on that
No.
stage. She's professional. She looks good. She certainly doesn't look like my fucking grandma did when she was 77,
Well, that's the thing.
or
Like
my mom, for that sake.
I look at Kiss, for example, and I think to myself, Gene Simmons is 74 years old right now. My dad's
Yeah.
not 74. There's no fucking chance. He is standing on stage with 7-inch heels, singing, God of Thunder and,
Yeah.
Belgian for 2.5 hours straight, spitting blood, sticking his tongue out.
But then you can go even a level up, and then you look at Mick Jagger and you go, he's 80 fucking 1 years old.
Yeah.
And most our grandparents died before that age,
Yeah.
and
He's
he's
still
up
he's
there,
he's going. He looks
yeah,
like he
he's
could start a
swinging
fresh
balls.
family tomorrow.
Yeah,
So,
he's on it. Fucking, if he marries again, I'm sure he's like, yeah, we got another one little coming here. His
yeah,
sister
yeah.
will be 67.
Jesus
I,
Christ. No, dude,
I don't know if I have.
it is mind blowing that to me.
I don't know if anyone. I don't know how it's going to be with with the heavy metal community. Our the granddads now, of course, Ozzy Osbourne. How long is that going to last? I don't think. I don't know. It's cruel to kind of talk about those things, but I don't. Maybe Rob Halford. He's one of those who's going to be like 94 and just.
Yeah. Well, he is he's 71, I think. Let's
Yeah, yeah.
let me double check.
He's really healthy and up there, and he's taking care of his body and eating right and doing the
Yeah.
right things. So there's a couple of the other ones who's not really doing that, and I'm kind of impressed that they're still around.
That's well, we talk about these stuff, and I know roughly the I know the main age demographic of this podcast, and it's not a podcast for the Generation Z or whatever else is coming
No,
after
no,
that,
no,
whatever horror show awaits thereafter.
no.
But it's the you definitely, as you get older, I find you start to develop a real appreciation for people that can still operate at a certain level at
Yeah,
at that sort of age. So when I talk about these things, for me, it's on one hand, when you talk about folks like Ozzy Osbourne, like when he said he was going to retire, it was
yeah.
it's not that I'm necessarily the biggest Ozzy Osbourne fan and my life is ruined because he's not going to make another record.
Oh, I am. Look at it.
Ah,
It's
okay, all right.
it's a Diary of a Madman tour. baseball jacket.
That is nice. I'll
That's
definitely
pretty
give you
cool.
that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, we grew up with all these people, right? They were
Yeah.
like fucking oxygen, they were just always there. And you sort of, when they start to say they're going to retire, or when it feels like they're too old to do something, it starts to remind you of your own age. And when you
Yeah.
see guys like Gene Simmons, who's still, going hell for leather, it's or, quite literally, Rob
Yeah.
Halford's still going hell for leather. It kind of, for me, it kind of gives me hope. It's
Yeah,
like,
it
look, I'm
does.
43
Yeah.
years old now. There's still a long road ahead.
Yeah. No, but I can totally tap into that thing because it's telling me too that, if I take a little bit care of things, I can actually do this forever, creating music, which is my ultimate passion in life, and that I can't stop actually. But I've actually, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about when we're going to talk about the Nocturnal Breed album, because I came to this fucking realization while making this album, which took almost 2 years, that I have to change shit around a little bit. I don't want to be one of those wrinkly guys who die when you're 60, and I have to take a little bit more care of shit. And of course, then when you look at Rob Halford and stuff, you realize that you can't fucking drink and just be stoned out of your fucking head all the fucking time because it's not gonna work. Not that I was doing that up until I was recording this album, but I don't. I just needed to change around a little bit. So I've been much more focused about where I live and being in the forest and doing this kind of homesteading thing.
Yeah,
Instead of
moving around, being active.
being active, building things. Kind of preparing a little bit for me and my family. And I don't know what people out there think about things, but when I'm looking around now in the world, this is not going really well. And I want to be a bit more prepared. I want to put on 20, 30 pounds that I lost the last 10 years and, that kind of shit. Just get into a different mind space than thinking about what the fuck people on Facebook is thinking about your newest song or whatever. That kind of realization came through making this new album thing. And yeah, sorry, that was just a sidetracking. But
Well, so it's interesting what you say about that, because I've listened to the album a couple of times now, and obviously, you'd sent me the first single when we, prior to us speaking for the first time,
yeah,
and I was kind of trying to pinpoint my feeling listening to the record, or the impression I take away from the album, because very often when I listen to something, especially when I know I'm going to talk to someone on the podcast, you try and sort of think or imagine to yourself, what was the headspace this person was in.
yeah,
There's something about this record that to me is very celebratory. Much more so than definitely any other Nocturnal Breed record that you've done.
yeah.
There's at the risk of sounding like a pussy, it sounds there's like a real there's a real love about this record. There's like,
Yeah,
like a love of and a remembrance and a celebration of the bands you grew up with, the feeling that you had hearing those bands for the first time, or hanging out with your friends listening to that music, seeing your first shows, some of the crazy shit that you did around that to me is like the emotion that comes screaming out of the album. And actually it makes the experience of listening to it so enjoyable, because I think it's so relatable to anybody who went through that. And most of us who've been into this music for a long period of time, especially those of us that came up in the analog days,
yeah.
we can all relate to that, because that's how we all felt getting into this music in different guises. But how on the money would you say that interpretation is of what I heard?
That's right on the money. That's exactly what happened with the whole thing. That was, I don't know. The album was made in a really bad headspace, but the only thing I felt I had to grasp onto was those roots that you're talking about there.
Mm.
It's really prominent in the Knights of Denim song, because that's
Yes.
just directed at the new Wobbum scene, like 100%.
Mm.
We're having even the samples of those guys, and all that stuff. But the whole album, I don't know, I had in front of me just to manage to do this whole process, because people have to understand we made the album ourselves, and I had to mix the fucking thing in my living room for 3-4 months. And when you have no one to bounce this shit off, apart from the other guys, who, of course, all of us just go album deaf a year into this shit and you don't really know what you're listening to anymore because you've been listening way too much to it. It was driving me so mad that I had to like take LPs and I was putting it up on the shelf in front of me. So I had those guys to look up, and I was, mixing for 8-9 hours, and then you look up and you sit there with a joint and you try to calm yourself down. And I just had to look at these old albums, and I don't know, it sounds like a fucking hippie thing, but channel, that thing. I was looking at all the Iron Maiden albums when I was making Knights of Denim. Just, okay, what was it I really loved about this? What was it that turned fucking Metallica guys on? Because New Wobbem is like this giant, intersection where metal could have just gone off and died because the big bands like Black Sabbath and Zeppelin and Purple was just, they were too big. It was turning into a big cheesecake. And this, if it hadn't been for the Wobbin thing, and I had to kind of channel all this shit and just, okay, I remember in 1984 they turned on cable TV where I lived, and it was just like, wow, holy shit. And it was those guys, those, not to, of course there were some girls in there every now and then, but mostly guys. And it's the Knights of Denim, the denim pants and denim jackets with the West on and the leather jackets, with the Motorhead logo on. This is just something fucking so close about that. And when I got to England the first couple of times, I was almost like smelling, the fucking walls of the place because it was like infused with heavy metal. And so for me, England is the great heavy metal place. And from there, it just went on to the next song and next song. So maybe it's a bit schizophrenic, but every song on the album has almost like an arm reaching out. Here's a tribute to this thing,
Yeah.
If you listen to, at least after you hear me say this, if you listen to Salt the Wounds, that is my tribute song to Chuck from Death. And if you go back to it and listen to the vocals and how the riffs are made, it's like this is the song I would have made for Chuck if I played in Death.
Yeah.
That it's that kind of thing,
Well, so again, the thing that was interesting for me is, having spoken to you previously, and kind of getting a sense of how you experienced COVID, the lockdowns, and going through things that a lot of us went through. Wondering what was going to happen, and you start to kind of think, is this how shit's going to be for the rest of our lives? Are we never going to get to see shows again? All that sort of thing. It feels to me like that thinking with kind of music as your true north, as your beacon, is ultimately then what informs the Carry the Beast. Again, it's like reminiscing about the joy of getting into music, and it's like it reminded me a bit of, I don't know whether you remember a movie called Almost Famous, about this guy who is following this band around when they're on tour, desperate to interview the band, and all sorts of crazy things happen. It's a coming of age movie. It's actually pretty good. Right at the end of the movie, he finally gets to sit down with the guitarist of the band, who he's like been hunting now for the entire film, and he starts the interview and he asks the guy, what do you like about music? And the guy looks at him for a period of time. There's like a pregnant pause, and then he says, well, first of all, everything. That to me is like how you would capture this Nocturnal Breed record.
Wow.
It's not even like it's a record that's rooted in metal, but there's definitely it's about a love of music and a love of togetherness and a love of like like I said, that excitement, that youthful excitement of discovery, more than anything else.
Yeah, I think we just allowed ourselves to not be, because this is where, and I hate the term black thrash because that's just demeaning in a way, because if your band is a black thrash band, it means that no serious business people are ever going to look your fucking way. But apart from that, we allow ourselves to play with those old kind of tricks that all the old bands use, but you can't do it in a cheesy way. And this is where it's really hard to be a band like this, because you're always 1 inch away turning into a really bad Manowar, pretend band kind of thing. So you have to slide it between there, and then allowing ourselves, like we did now, just to be completely open with the influences. Like we did the Lady Vampire song. I just sat down and like, okay, I'm gonna make a fucking Merciful Fate song. This is what I'm gonna do now. And it's probably cheesy for I know there's a lot of this, by contemporary musicians who really like to, explore and make it new and stuff like that. But I like to, Nocturnal Breed is put within this framework of this kind of metal kind of thing. So I say, okay, let's explore how far I can push this thing without it turning into a bad, cheesy, Central European kind of thrash album. If you know what I mean.
I definitely do.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is cool how the Central European scene has developed over the years, though, because I talk a lot nowadays about like Poland is fucking awesome, and there's great bands coming out of like I mean everywhere from Lithuania to I mean there's some killer bands out of it's not Central Europe, but Russia. But I remember a day where back when I was writing on Chronicles of Chaos, if you got a demo from any of those countries, it was guaranteed that it was shit. I mean, like not just shit, it was fucking awful. And somehow along the lines over the course of the last, I'd say 15 years or so, but especially the last, I'd say the last 5 years from where we are right now, Jesus, the quality of stuff coming out of some of those countries is mind-blowingly good.
I think the quality of the underground scene actually worldwide is sounding so fucking much better than the guys up the ladder.
Yeah.
In comparison, but and that's one of the reasons why I bitch like an old fucking woman about this. And people get me wrong because I say I hate what's going on in metal and has done for so long. And people kind of take it at heart and just, oh, you mean my bands? No, I hate that big fucking slimy goo that is on fucking top here, with the crap bands that just everyone just allows them to just, oh, they made a new album. Be honest, it's fucking boring, Listen to give some of these other bands a chance because there's some brilliant fucking bands out there, and you bring up a lot of those, those little bands that people should fucking get into instead of some of those big juggernauts who just, I don't know where their fucking emotions and feelings are, but it's not in the fucking music.
Well, that's the thing. It's like a lot of it's become so cliched because it's almost like some of those bands like let's take a band who I actually like up into or excluding their last record because their last record was fucking awful. But Lamb of God, right? They're one of arguably the biggest bands in the metal scene right now. But it's so predictable. They bring out a record, and then all of the main magazines, Kerrang, Metal Hammer, and all these magazines. No matter if it's good or bad, they're going to say it's amazing. It's the best thing ever.
9 out of 10 and 10 out of 10, and all the way. And they do the same fucking tour together with In Flames and the same fucking
Kill
bands.
Switch Engage.
Kill Switch Engage and Five Finger Death Punch, because they're all on the same fucking management. That's the reason why they fucking team up. So the management is collecting a fucking gold bar a day, and these bands do the same tour
he's
over and over again.
992 GTSs to his collecting his fleet.
That I don't know. I want metal to be big, but I want it to be proper. And it's not kind of proper, it's kind of just, at a fucking angle. And a lot of really good shit is just falling overboard because you can't keep up, I know people who's been playing in bands for 20, 25 years to just give up, poor, broken, pissed off, take a shit job and then just forget about it, That's pretty sad because there's so much talent. And of course, there's a lot of untalent as well, that because we get overflown with 40,000 albums a month. We don't need to release every band, have some standard, we can have.
That's also a thing I find bizarre, right? There's a lot of bands that come my way that are unsigned, that are unbelievable, that struggle to get a record deal, and then like today, for example. I saw a thing like, I mean, Sumerian Records once upon a time used to release some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
And today on my YouTube feed, their big new release is a band called Starbenders, and the song is called Sex. And it's like it's
there's so many fucking bender names that came into my head now.
Yeah, exactly.
To start.
But it's such shit. It sounds like like Death Star's light,
That's what I
and
can
how
imagine
many?
from the name.
Yeah, exactly. And how many more of those bands does the world
Uh,
need? None.
None, none.
That
No.
style of music was played out in 1997. You know, we don't
And
need in 2023 to hear any more bands like that. But yet these bands get signed in their droves, and then you see great bands like Stellar Master Elite, that have been around. You've made 3-4 records independently, great albums, and they just never get picked up. And it's like,
no,
yeah,
it's
I find it
it's
bizarre.
so strange. It's really bizarre, and this thing just kind of just goes on and on and on. And you go to Hellfest, and there's 500 bands playing, and it's like, well, in one way, it's pretty cool, but I fucking enjoyed when I had to build up some momentum to go to a gig, and it was like, it's gonna fucking happen now. You're waiting for half a fucking year to see Iron Maiden, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's not happening anymore. It's not unique, it's not special anymore. You can, even up here, you can go to gigs every fucking day, and I don't know.
But what I do like about the Norwegian festival scene is like you've got Inferno, you've got Beyond the Gates. They seem to kind of have their own vibe and their own
Yeah.
distinct flavor, which I quite like. I've unfortunately not been to either, but
No.
I do want to change that at some point because my friend Katie does PR for both, so I'm sure I'll be able to swing
Yeah.
it at some point. But I think if I'm going to coincide a visit to Norway, it's definitely going to be to go to one of those two festivals. Even
Yeah,
though,
you
in
should.
fairness, I'm not a festival person, generally speaking.
No, I mean, it stopped for me just because I've been working with this, and I had a band, and next to the band, I worked for a company who was rigging big fucking concerts, for 10 years. So I don't know. I tried to count it up, and in the span of 10 years, I think I saw about 3,000 concerts, and that
Jesus.
just it removed every fucking inkling to, oh, I want to see. I think now I want to see Sisters of Mercy. I want to see Fields on the Nephilim, Dead Can Dance, Kate Bush. I want to see that kind of shit. Because some of the best gigs I saw was with those kind of bands. But
So you mentioned that before, and I don't think we ever touched on that previously. So I didn't realize you used to work for a company that did that. So what did you do exactly, and tell me a bit about how you landed in that racket.
it's just from knowing people, from playing thousands of concerts in Oslo and in Norway,
Yeah.
and all around the place, and you get to know people. And one day, one guy just asked, "You want to work for us? We do the big gigs, the outdoor festivals for Tina Turner and Pink Floyd, and all that kind of shit." I said, yeah, of course, I like working. And it's you're a roadie. It's 10, 15 hours of back breaking work, carrying iron, and you go home, have a burger and a beer and a joint, and you go back and you work 10 more hours. And so during a day, I could be having load in with Iron Maiden and Entombed in the morning, and I had Cranberries at Rockefeller in the evening, and I had Takedown from Rat at the next place,
Yeah.
and then I go home, and then you meet Sting the day after. You just get completely confused and out there, and it's
Yeah.
not really it's not paying well, but there's some pretty cool things. You get to meet some cool people, and like we worked for Dio, and he was awesome guy, just hanging out with the crew and giving us beers and talking with them, and
Oh,
you get
so I was just going to ask. So you got to meet Ronnie James Dio?
yeah, the coolest guy I met Bob Dylan with just a little nod, and we were standing backstage with Willie Nelson and his crew and his band, and everyone was smoking, and I don't know, those kind of little things.
So what was Ronnie James Dio like?
He was excellent. He was so cool. He was the tiniest person I ever met. I
Bro,
felt this
like any
little.
you see a documentary with him and he's standing next to somebody else, you're like,
Yeah,
you look like a pixie. It's
and yeah,
like,
but he is, and his hand, because I was together with a couple other guys, we were just pushing in. He has pretty big backline and stuff. We were pushing in stuff, and suddenly I felt this. It felt like my grandma right before she died touched my shoulder. It's like this tiny little pixie fairy touch, like, hi guys. And I turned around and said, wow, Dio. And I took his hand, and at this time I was also doing carpentry, so, and carrying all this shit. So my hands were pretty good, in a good shape, and his whole hand just disappeared in mine. It was like, dude, fuck, you're small. And he was so happy. He went around to all the guys who were standing, at this place at that time, gave people a hug, and his horns were up, a million times. And he went over because they had Mickey D was there as a guest, and he was standing with us, and he went over to Mickey D's stash and just picked up all these beers and gave us all beers. And the rest of the night, he was just hanging around there, talking and, just being a cool guy. And he was actually opening for Alice Cooper. And we never saw Alice, that was just a limo that came into the building. He went on stage, out again, and he was on a plane to Sweden, so, oh, okay. He's one of those guys.
You're going to hate me for saying this, but I've always preferred Ronnie James Dio Black Sabbath to Ozzy Black Sabbath. Especially,
it's just two completely.
I was about to say
it's two different bands.
It's two different bands, but
yeah.
Children of the Sea and Too Late, to me, that is like, in terms of vocal performance from that.
It's magic. It's magic.
It's astounding.
Magic. That was when it's really had those 10 extra years in metal band to fucking fine tune his vocals as well. Through Rainbow and Elf and all this other stuff he was doing. But I'm actually one of those weird guys who I love Headless Cross.
You know what? You're not the first person who said that to me recently. I can't remember who it was. It was a couple of episodes ago. But I remember someone saying that they were a fan of Headless Cross as well. And I was
I love all those albums that people don't like.
Those throwaway records.
Yeah, Tyr and Idol and all that shit. It's magical. But it's because I like porn metal. And then I don't mean porn metal like Poison and those bands, because that's not porn metal. That's kind of drag metal. But I know porn metal, when you take this kind of epic heavy metal and you just go that extra notch, and you're not afraid to, have this tight ass pants with your balls kind of hanging out, and like Crimson Glory is the perfect example. When you have that song, Lonely, with the big curly hair and the silver mask, and you just with the lights from the back in the video, and you're just going for it. White Snake and that kind of stuff too, man. If you're gonna do porn rock, fucking do it.
For me, the kings of that is Wasp.
Dude,
I don't care what anybody says, but the early Wasp records are genius.
And that's
absolute genius.
And I see bands who's like, yeah, we're putting 100% into it. No, you're fucking not. Look at that fucking guy, and you pointed Blackie Loveless in 1985. He's fucking giving it all. When we went to those shows, and people came out with blood and feathers and powders and shit, fucking burn marks, and wow, what the fuck happened? That's a fucking show. A lot of the shit we see now, well, it's shows, but it almost half the bands look like they're in their, rehearsal room, just putting on a t-shirt and playing through some songs,
That will always be the thing that I detest the most. I've said it so many times on the podcast, is when I go to a show and it feels like I've been invited to band rehearsal. It was crushingly disappointing to me when I remember going to see Zyklon, and I was such a big fan of that World of Worms record, and I was a massive fan of Eon as well. So excited about seeing them. I was like, this is going to be one of the fucking best shows ever. And it's literally just the dude standing on stage, no interaction with the audience, no engagement, no nothing. It was so boring. I was like, it was the most disappointing. I mean, they played well, they played right. I don't give a fuck. I'd much rather them making mistakes on every single song and then being drunk and yelling at the audience than then I don't want to see a rehearsal. I have no interest in seeing that.
No, I do the same thing. I've been on stage a million times thinking, okay, if I do this now, it's 50-50 if I'm going to fuck up or not. I'm fucking doing it anyway. So if you're listening to Nocturnal Breed videos live on YouTube and stuff, you can hear some shit here and there. But I can guarantee you, the guy I jumped in front of and, gave some whiskey in his glass, he thinks it was pretty fucking cool.
That's the magic of going to a show. There's that spontaneity. Is that feeling that something is going to pop off and something crazy can happen at any point.
Yeah. First time I saw Bruce Dickinson, the way Bruce Dickinson just grabs a hold of, 50,000 people and just here, and you feel you're fucking the thing he's talking to. you have to do that kind of shit. That's a part of the metal gig, you know. You have to interact and make those people
Yeah.
feel like he's playing for fucking me.
Yeah.
That's what when I went to Alice Cooper in the 80s and shit, you know, with the snakes and the blood and the hanging himself and chopping his fucking head off, and you know, and it was the 80s, so you're a little bit closer to the stage than you're nowadays, you know, and that shit's fucking magical, man, and it's not really happening anywhere, you know. It just comes to mind as we're talking about this. I just have to get it out. How fucking bad that Motley Crue thing went.
Oh yeah. That's that.
Like as an old Motley Crue fan, it's like fucking hell, man. You know, what we're ending up with here. You know, I'm a big fan of Mick Mars, and there it fucking stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No.
I can. It's pathetic. I can see more fucking old people like that. That's, you know, the as we talked about earlier, you know, with old people and shit. That's the kind of thing I don't want to turn into. I don't want to be fucking Tommy Lee being naked on stage to get some fucking attention online, you know.
Well, hasn't Tommy Lee started an OnlyFans now as well, which
Yeah.
is even
Well,
worse.
well, his penis started one without him, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like when you see Guns N' Roses nowadays. Like I remember seeing them, you know, seeing live shows of theirs in the early days, and I even remember seeing them like when it was just Axl doing Chinese Democracy stuff. But it was really cool. Now he sounds like the pedophile neighbor on Family Guy when he sings. I mean, it really like I'm almost cringing for him. It's like this sounds so bad.
He kind of looks like it too, you know, the kind of neighbor you have to tell your kids to watch out.
But it is a funny thing. It's like you know, I feel like I've spoken about this about as far as the new Metallica is concerned many times. Like I do think certain bands at some point they should concede that they just don't have that kind of music in them anymore.
Oh fuck yeah.
And you know, Metallica to me, if they put out a whole entire record of acoustic cover songs in the vein of "It's Killing Me," which was that clip that they posted on their channel a while back, I'd take that any day of the week over the 72 Seasons crap, because this sounds fucking terrible. I mean, it's unlistenable to me.
I actually compared that album to mine, or I say mine to ours, you know. But I made a lot of the stuff on the new album. But since they kind of came out almost at the same time, and we've been in the same process during the COVID and the war and all the kind of shit, and they are a band that tapped into the thing I'm trying to kind of put into the album we did now. I don't think they're fucking tapping into it at all anymore, you know.
But they're not tapping into it because it's not there anymore. I don't think, and it's not.
No.
I'm not hating on them, but I just genuinely don't think it's there anymore. I don't think they have a desire for it, and I would be very surprised if they spend any of their time listening to this kind of music.
No.
I think they've got fond memories of the early days, and I'm not taking that away from them whatsoever. But there's a real soullessness to this new record that, you know, it speaks to a band that's not doing this because this is what they truly want to do, is how they want to express themselves as artists. It just speaks to a band who believe that brand Metallica needs to sound a certain way, and so I'm going to play to the brand. You know, and again, that's if we talk about the old guard, that's where you have to give a band like Mayhem unbelievable props, because that Demon record was fucking fantastic.
Yeah, they're not. They don't give a shit. Yeah.
They didn't lose a step. You know, it's as evil and sinister as it's always been. You know, and I would argue, even though a lot of people didn't like it, I would argue Esoteric Warfare was just as good.
I think that goes for the whole extreme metal scene. We are much better at, you know, holding on to that flame that kind of, you know, ignited in the start there. Because you see this with so many of those Metallica kind of big bands that they just forgot the whole thing. They don't know what it's about anymore. And I've been saying this a million times in 1,000 different places, but I wish these bands just went into a little cabin in the fucking woods with a tiny little shit recorder, some shit instruments, some cases of beer, and you lock them the fuck in there. Till they make
don't come out until you put out something
decent. And you fill up that fucking cabin with old metal albums and old live VHS tapes, and, you know, just fucking wake the fuck up, man. You can't. Yeah, I don't know. It's
But
probably
so
impossible, you know.
my I'm not averse to money whatsoever, right? I've
No,
said
no,
on the podcast before, I'm if it's a choice between capitalism and communism,
oh yeah, yeah,
there's
fuck
no
me.
discussion about where I'm sitting.
No,
And I work hard to make money to have a comfortable life, but when you're 185 million dollars strong, as I believe James is, and it's probably north of that now. I
yeah.
do think to myself, what's motivating you to write truly angry music? What are you angry at when you're worth
What?
185
Yeah,
million?
what's your fucking edge now, James?
There is no edge. There's nothing
No,
to be edgy about. 185 million buys you a whole lot
no.
of peace and tranquility. It doesn't buy you a lot
That
of
that
anger, that's for sure.
that's why you see he kind of come out with this. I need a hug on stage because my wife left me,
Yeah,
kind of stuff. You know, because that's the biggest drama he can get pissed about in his life. You know,
yeah.
and you know, and I'm not talking shit about that because James is a great guy. He seems like everyone's coolest, you know, buddy or uncle. You know, so it's not about that, and it's not. I love the old Metallica stuff. I
Mm.
think the guys are great. I think Lars Ulrich is a business genius, but they somewhere down the line, you know, of course, as I say, a couple of $100 million, and it just keeps ticking fucking in. That's
Well,
gonna
this
take
is the
away
thing. That's why I
something.
say, if you get to a point where your creature comforts, your material comforts are too much, I just don't think you have. There's not anything that I think really inspires you to write music that
Uh,
is authentically and convincingly angry. I think Slayer, had that to a degree as well. I mean, those
yeah,
guys do very
yeah,
well for themselves financially. There's no one that's going to be able to argue with me that Repentless is anywhere near as convincing as Show No Mercy, or even something like Sons
no,
of
no, no,
Heaven or Seasons in the Abyss.
no,
And I would argue most of those bands are the same, which is the stark difference between them and Testament is Testament. The guys in Testament are reasonably well off financially, but there's enough knowing that the wolf might be
yeah,
at the door that they're still
yeah,
motivated.
yeah,
So the real solution, and I've said this should be the case with a lot of the gangster rap acts that I liked in the early 90s as well. Right at the very start of these guys' career, they should have said, we're going to be confiscating all of the money that you make from your records,
yeah,
subsistence
yeah,
living only. We'll invest the money for you. We'll be very
yeah,
transparent so you can see where your money is going and stuff. And when you retire, we'll give all your money to you. But until you retire, we believe it's essential for your art that you be poor. So,
yeah. Yeah, if you will only give you 2,000. You know, I don't know. Yeah, $2,000 a month. You can live from that
yeah.
and keep it on that forever
Average.
until you stop.
But look at the country they live in and say, what's the median income in this country? We'll give you that every single year.
Yeah.
So that no more.
I, I I would have loved if someone actually had taken control of my old contracts and the financials and the shit we did, because we signed some stupid fucking shit back then with Gehenna and stuff. That, you know, like the second spell Gehenna album, you know, that's never
Yeah.
coming out, you know, properly again, and we're never getting anything, and because there's businessmen who just tricked a bunch of kids, you know.
That was signed to which record label again?
Cacophonous Records, same as
Oh yeah, but
Cra-
Cacophonous Records was like I was about to say Cradle of Filth. They were an English
yeah.
record label, weren't they?
It's I think his name is Neil. I'm not sure anymore because it's so long since we talked about it. But it was owned by a guy who kind of pretended to be a music lover, but he was just a businessman. So he released Gehenna and the first Cradle of Filth, Hecate Enthroned, and Havohei, and a couple other things.
Oh, he
And
had
then it
what's
then
him?
it
He
just
had Deinonychus. He had Balsagoth. He had
yeah, Balsagoth, yeah.
well,
And he
Balsagoth
just
is awful. So
then
I never
he
would have.
just yeah, yeah. Then he just left the fucking building, you know, and everyone
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, what's happening now?" And when the Gehenna guys, I talked to them later, like, "Okay, what are we gonna do with this album? It needs to be properly, you know, handled through the years." And then we just gotta fuck you. If you try to touch that album, we will drag you to England and we'll sue the fucking pants off you. He's into real estate and they don't give a flying fuck. So the second Spell Gehenna album and the first Cradle of Filth, you really don't see out there as a
No.
reissue and this and that and all the other, because he's keeping all those shit just locked in. So someone should just, you know, throw him over the fucking fence.
Toss him to the piranhas.
Yeah.
There's definitely I would say, it's true of death metal and of black metal. There was certainly in the '90s a lot of very unscrupulous characters floating about. I mean, I know Earache Records. Yeah, there's a lot of folks that I spoke to off the record that had nothing but the very worst things to say about the label,
I heard
and,
heard some
and and
shit
and
too.
and how they were treated. And to me, it's no surprise that like you don't even see them really sign bands anymore. All
No,
they
they
seem
just
to be
disappeared.
focused on doing is posting a bunch of fucking mainstream nonsense on their Instagram page, or something woke. Or once in a while, one of the dudes comes and talks about something from the old days, but it's not like they're signing bands or doing anything like that. But I mean,
Yeah,
there's an awful lot of those smaller labels, which again, props to a label like Osmos or a label like Nuclear Blast, for sticking it out through those years, and they're
yeah,
still putting out bands, still putting out new bands. So
yeah. Same with Peaceville, he was kind of gone for a little while, but then they realized the treasures of Dark Throne and Isengard and shit they were sitting on, and now they're kind of on it. I think R Noir, they are in Peaceville, and
yeah, well,
Sin,
they're
yeah,
putting out Ruum, that new Blasphemer record as well.
yeah.
That song, by
So
the way, Jesus Christ! Oh, as soon as I heard it, it was like every single thing that epitomizes how black metal should sound is captured in this
yeah,
song, in this band.
I
Um,
haven't heard it yet because I've been a bit off radar with everything since I put down my guitar and bass and shit in December. I haven't. I just logged off everything.
Well, let me talk to you about a couple of stories that you might have missed, and I'm curious to get your take on it. And obviously, I concede you might know some of these folks, so I'm not gonna try and pull you into a shit fight or anything like that. None of it's massively
Yeah, no,
controversial anyway. Well, actually, one is, but so first story, I read an article. So this was ironic because a couple of weeks previously, I'd commented on the news rant that these guys need to get the best thing for them to do would be to reunite. I'm talking about Immortal, and I read about Demonaz, or Demonaz was in doing an interview saying like, "There's no chance. I'm never
yeah, I
reuniting.
heard that. Yeah, yeah, I heard that.
We've tried it." I do feel like they are. It's a bit like Ishon and Samoth not making music together. One kind of needs the other, I feel, in order for them to be
Yeah,
truly effective. It sounds both of their projects separately sounds very hollow to me. And when these guys are together and then they're doing music together, that's where
it's perfect.
the
Yeah,
magic comes from. My I guess my question was, Slash and Axel managed to bury the hatchet at some point.
yeah.
Do you think? I mean, do you know these dudes?
No, not personally, just from a couple of parties way back, forever, long
Yeah.
ago.
So
And
you don't
when I
have a
was
view
was
on
in
whether.
Gehenna, I never been hanging out with them or anything like that. But I know them through other people, and we've kind of just been around each other like a lot of people are. And I think they like almost like I talked about with that Metallica thing, drop all the shit, go into a cabin up in the mountain, bring some beers, a little tape recorder, and a couple of guitars, and you do like you did in the old days because that's what's missing. You know,
Yeah.
that's it. Like Immortal, it needs to fucking smell of snow and mountains and Blashirks and Raven Darks, and that's not coming through. They need to spaz out on some old Kiss because that's their thing, hang out with each other, say let bygones be bygones, fuck it, make some old. They always, I always love that about Immortal. They always made their own studs and nails and their
Mm.
shit, that they were wearing. That's homemade shit,
Mhm.
when in the old video, when they're laying under ice and stuff like that, that's his oldest son's fucking bedroom window, with some snow on top of.
Yeah, yeah.
That's that shit. They need to go back to that shit, but it's easier to be like those bands now. I have no idea what these people get from a concert, but you easily get, I don't know, 10, $15,000 each for a gig. And that's when shit starts to happen, and it's continuously party and drinking, and take that shit away, go into the nature and mountains, and that's where it started. But
And
it's
I'm
it's
wondering, I
it's
mean,
hard.
like how much money would be thrown around to potentially get these guys back together? Like like you take Anthrax for example. It was very clearly money that got them to set aside their differences with old poodle
Belladonna,
hair
yeah.
Belladonna. Um, and money has helped mend a lot of fences. But I mean, do you think enough money would be thrown around at these guys if there were rumors or a chance that they could reunite?
No, actually, I think this is where this scene and some of the kind of punk hardcore scene differs from all the others. I
Mm.
know about offers that have been made, which is like 500,000 and shit like that, not to Immortal, but to another but massive band, one of the biggest. The guys just said no.
But it's like,
and that
I mean,
and that was
haven't
that
they
was
offered?
that was
Uh,
for one fucking concert. Do one concert,
yeah,
500,000 Norwegian kroners each,
I was about to say
No.
it sounds like you're talking about Fenris there, because I mean I know over the years he's been offered an obscene amount of money to play
I'm
live, and
not
he just refuses.
I'm not saying anything. Anything. You can watch
Yeah.
my poker face. No, but it's true. There's some big fucking money going about for those 3 or 4 massive bands on top there, and I don't think. I think the Immortal guys are, they're made just as the rest of us. If they don't want to do it, that pile of money is not worth it. That's not where
Mm.
you're going. It's never been about that, and that's where I think a lot of the people are meeting themselves in the fucking door. Because like a band like Emperor and stuff, of course it's cool to be Emperor, and you just rake in fucking you fart loud, and someone fucking pays you for it. It's
Yeah.
and shit happens. I mean this for all the bands and all the scene, the whole everything. Just walk away from each other for 5 fucking seconds. Delete the Facebooks and Instagrams. Walk away and just go back a little bit because it's
Mhm.
I don't know. Do we really want to turn into one of those TikTok things? Really?
Hell no, no.
That's what this half of this scene is feeling like. It's like, oh fucking yeah! You have a guy who's been to rehearsal and is posting 67 pictures of himself. At the rehearsal with the half new song with a crappy riff and come on, let the magic be there, the little mystique.
Mm.
That's what happened back in the days because no one knew shit about anyone. You had no idea what the Marduk guys were doing. You had to fucking read it in magazine. And that goes for so many bands and the bands I grew up with. I had no fucking idea what Ozzy Osbourne was doing. He was just this magical, godlike person, and Wasp and stuff. Like, well, we have this wild fucking ideas, me and my friends, in our heads about like, what would Dee Snider be like, if you were his son and we were
Yeah.
that's not happening anymore because you can go to someone's Instagram and you can see what your biggest hero is having for dinner every fucking night.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I just want it away. And I know it sounds grumpy and not very modern and all that, but I don't want metal to be modern, man.
Yeah, I agree with you on one hand. I think that it's that the dynamic has definitely changed, right?
Yeah.
The dynamic around that mystique and how the real characters come across and are conveyed, or are sort of embraced by the audience. I think that has changed, right? People are so much more accessible now. But I mean, there's still folks that are, you know, that kind of retain that spirit, or are authentic characters that people gravitate towards and kind of have that danger and have that excitement, in spite of the fact that, generally speaking, people are more accessible now. Some of them, in my view, they're almost accessible. Their inaccessibility almost adds to it. Like, Mortus, for example, from Marduk.
Yeah.
No social media presence, never
Yeah.
does an interview. He's just a dark, fucking scary man when he's on stage. And actually,
That's
Samoth is,
cool.
is kind of the same. But Attila,
Yeah.
like, Mayhem have done this very weird swerve, and this is where, like, where I kind of see things maybe slightly differently to you. They've done this very weird swerve where they've become this super accessible group of people, at least in terms of how prolific they are on social
Yeah.
media. Not Necro as much, but the rest of them certainly. And somehow it's almost made them more intriguing in a way, because it's like it's like this split personality. It's like these dudes that are completely normal. You see, photos of Attila out with his friends, and they're these, normal groovy cats,
Yeah.
and then they're on stage and they're fucking demons. They're absolute fucking psychopaths.
Yeah.
Um,
You're seeing like the end points,
yeah,
of a scale here. Imagine if Jim Morrison had fucking Facebook, man.
yeah. That
It's
would
that
have been a
kind of thing.
scary thing, right? Like, if a lot of those dudes had Facebook, the legends that have passed on,
Oh
what would
yeah,
they
I
truly have
want
been
to.
like?
I want to see a night with a rat pack, on fucking Facebook. That would be some fucking political insanity.
Well, that would be cancellation central.
Yeah,
But I mean,
massively on
you
all of them.
you mentioned D. Snyder. Did anyone think that D was going to be like Captain Woke,
Ah,
as he has
fuck
turned
him,
out to be
fuck
over the
him.
course of the last couple of
Oh,
years?
it's his. I regret fucking saying this because I loved D. Snyder when I was young. I would have married D. Snyder when I was a kid, but
Yeah.
fucking hell, the shit he says and does, and he hasn't. I'm sorry, D, or anyone who loves Twisted Sister, but they haven't released a cool album since Come Out and Play,
Mm.
because Love Is for Suckers is just a desperate kind of thing. And you can't come, haven't made a fucking cool song in 30 fucking years, and still it's like, yeah, I'm Captain fucking America. Fuck you,
Mm-hmm.
man, you're not. It's make some cool music, do something, because that last couple albums and shit, that's just destroying my ears. It's
But
horrible.
I knew something was amiss with him. Like, I always used to think he was a reasonably cool guy as well, and so I knew something was amiss when I heard him on Jamie Jaster's podcast, talking about his first solo album that he did with Jaster, and
Yeah.
he was talking about it in this very, like, it was 2015 or whatever it was when it came out. But he was talking about it like this is like 1982. He's like, a lot of people, I don't want to say who, they didn't want this album to come out because of what you're talking about. It's like, bro, you are
Uh,
making the most benign hard rock shit on the face of the earth. I highly doubt, in a world of, I mean, who can we throw out in a world of Panzerfaust and fucking Funeral Mist and bands like that, anyone is going, oh God, just don't let D. Snyder put out this
yeah.
solo record.
Oh, no, no,
What will
no.
happen to the youth?
Oh, he's a fucking. I don't know what happened, man. He just fell off the fucking ladder somewhere, and it's like, as just say, it's like, yeah, it's like the world is not doing, yeah, back at you, man. And he was saying this when Limp Bizkit was on the top, It's like,
Yeah.
come on.
Well, I would argue, I think Limp Bizkit is a more menacing band than what D.
What
Snyder
D
is.
Snyder is now? Yeah, fuck
Without
yeah.
a doubt. But he is, with the issue with him, it's kind of like the problem with Paul Stanley as well. It's an overinflated sense of importance.
Oh yeah.
But
Almost
I can forgive Paul Stanley more than I can forgive D. Snyder,
yeah, I
because
do the
Paul
same thing
Stanley,
too. But
yeah,
he's starting to make me more and more sick. The more I see of Paul Stanley,
yeah,
he's making me more and more sick. And the more I see of Ace Frehley, I'm loving this old drunken guy. Well, he's sober now, but he's
yeah,
just telling it like it is. Paul, you're a fucking asshole. If you don't
yeah,
shut the fuck up, I'm gonna tell some shit about you. They're gonna close you down. And I'm
yeah.
waiting for that. I'm waiting for Ace to snap and just tell everyone about all the kids that Paul fucked. That was 15 and 14, and everyone, I'm sure they were happy, all of them, but
Well, it's he's kind of like Nikki Sixx in the sense that he's very pious about a lot of things now, and super politically correct. He kind of dabbled with a bit of controversy when he said, I don't quite agree with these sex change operations for minors. Then, got a bit of shit from fucking Noodles from The Offspring,
yeah.
and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
He did the old
Oh
trope.
man.
I'm listening. I'm learning.
Fuck,
Um,
that's fucking cringeworthy
yeah,
beyond,
it's terrible. If you're gonna say something, then stand by what you're saying. I'll tell you this: if J.K. Rowling, author of Harry Potter, has more balls than you do,
Yeah, because she does.
you
She
need to
fucking does.
you need to look yourself in the mirror long and hard.
Fuck yeah. And I heard the film company came crawling back to J.K. Rowling to
Yeah,
make the Harry Potter spin off TV series now.
yeah, yeah.
So she won anyway, and she stood by her massive balls, and Paul Stanley is standing on his little green piece. Fuck that, man.
Yeah. No,
And
it's
if you notice, Gene Simmons is smartly just shutting the fuck up the last half year.
yeah. Well, he was a bit mouthy during COVID, which also I didn't
Yeah.
necessarily agree
But
with.
but then they went on the tour, and I'm sure he's seen the fucking clips from the tour, and that's just
Yeah,
playback uber alles, and it's like,
yeah.
fuck this. And I don't know what's happening with this old. They should just, oh, come on, stop, man. And the
Yeah.
young guys, and I say, I don't know, I can't. Kiss is not fucking Kiss. You know, I saw them in 1996, and it wasn't even Kiss then.
Mm.
You know, so I don't know.
If you
So
do go back though, like I've developed a big thing for the early records, and I go back and I listen to Alive, for example. Fucking what an album!
I really grew up with
What an
those.
album!
Yeah, I had some friends a couple of years older than me when I was, I don't know, 8, 9, and I remember going to their house and they had just plastered fucking Kiss everywhere. We spent hours listening there, and that's magic because I didn't know all the fucking albums and shit. You know, you're 9 fucking years old, you know, and they come around and it's like, okay, I'm gonna put on Destroyer, you know, and you're sitting there and like this shit, man. What the fuck did I miss? It was just
Mm.
Kiss is magical. That old stuff is just, and you can see that in bands like Immortal, you know, because that's where you learn your fucking moves.
Yeah, well, you see it in bands like Pantera. You saw it in bands like Pantera in the early days. I've spoken about it so many times on the podcast, people get sick of it. But I just in case I haven't mentioned it to you, have you seen the live clip of Pantera doing Cold Gin?
No,
Dude,
I don't
it's
think
so
I
fucking cool.
probably once, but you know,
It's
there's a
got like
million me that can go back.
I'll send it to you straight after this. It's got that like it's like Dime playing with his groove,
Yeah,
and Vinny doing his thing. It's got that feeling of like mid-90s Pantera where there was that air of like again air of menace. Like anything can happen on stage. Someone can get
yeah.
can get fucked up. Someone in the audience can get beaten up. Something fucking wild is going to happen. The crowd is out of control. The band's out of control. It just had that feeling of spontaneity about it, and I love it. Like every time I listen to that song, I get goosebumps because I think like how cool would it have been to be there.
There's some magic on some of those gigs when you get that tension. You know, even I
Yeah.
even seen bands I don't like, and you see the tension and the feel just goes like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You're on something now.
Now we touched on Emperor. One of the other stories I wanted to get your take on because I do know you know these guys to a degree. Ison seems to have been flirting recently, or at least he's warm to the idea of doing another Emperor album. Do you think
Yeah,
that's is he teasing, or do you think that's something that he would like? My comment on the news rant was he wouldn't be saying it if it wasn't
exactly.
if there wasn't more
Yeah.
than just chatter around
The,
it.
this is not the Tommy Lee's penis talking, you know, on this is an actual man that is very intelligent and well thought through, so he wouldn't
Yeah.
say shit anywhere if it wasn't pretty well down that road, I think. So, and I think it's about due fucking time because we can't do this Emperor plays the best of CD over and
No,
over again.
no, I
So
agree with you on that.
I think it's going to be, but you know, they're under such a massive fucking amount of pressure now, you know, because so they have been waiting so long. So who knows where they're gonna go? I hope they're gonna fuck off into a cabin in the woods with some beers, but I'm not quite sure about that. You know, it might be some over techno shit, guitar shit that you know goes a million miles an hour and never stops. I don't know.
That would make me unbelievably sad.
Me too.
I think whatever they do, what is critical is that it needs to be a 50-50 effort between him and Samoth.
Yeah,
Like that to me is essential. I think, and I've said it many times, the same off Wretched End records are fantastic. They are
yeah,
criminally overlooked as far as I'm concerned. Like you talk about people that still have it, like that dude still has it. Like he
yeah.
feels the darkness, and
No, it's
unfortunately, I
where
would.
they live and everything, you know. They just keep living in Telemark in the wooded places like I live.
Yeah.
You know, you just keep close to that feeling. It's much easier. And he's not a social person. Samot was never a social person. I've been spent 1,000 hours in a tour bus with him, and he's the kind of guy who just looks at you for half an hour. You just go, ah, come. And I'm the kind of guy who cracks jokes and shit, you know. And I think he got so. I'm gonna send you a picture, and this picture I have never put online and I think it's
Well,
okay.
it'll be G14 classified. I won't. I won't
No,
share
no,
it
but
openly.
you can actually put this online, but because I think 25 years is enough, kind of, you know, bouncing time in between there. Because we
Is it
went
of
to
you
this,
teabagging him on the?
yeah, I just had enough, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna teabag this guy. I'm gonna get a smile on his face. No, we went to in Berlin. There's this giant fucking teddy bear, cozy bear store, like several stories with just teddy bears fucking everywhere. And we were walking around, and just when we were on tour, I had my daughter, and Samat had his first daughter a month after my daughter. So we both had, kids at home, half-year-old. So okay, we have to go and buy some, some teddy bears and shit. We're on tour and have to buy some cool shit. And it was Ishan, Samat, me, and Selenos from Dimmerborger, or Ed Dominator, he called himself in Nocturnal Breed. And we went to this teddy bear shop. And this picture is so fucking good. I don't remember who from the crew was there to take the picture. You just snap the picture and you see me and Ishan laughing and Selenos too. And you see Samat just like dead fucking sober in the middle there. Like, I fucking hate being here with you guys and the teddy bears and fucking everything. And there's a guy with a fucking camera. Fuck this. You can see it on the whole guy that just like, this pisses him off.
he also like he's very stoic on stage. Like doesn't break
Oh,
the
yeah.
days. Like just
He does-
dead on business. Or he's like his nickname should be All Business.
Yeah, it should really be. And the funny thing, and I think maybe I've said this before, the funny thing is that Ishan is very much more like me. He likes to crack up and giggle, and he gets pretty silly every now and then. So I know that Ishan gets on some of his fucking nerves every now and then, because he just giggles off in these little rants and shit, and Samat just has to listen. I think it's a part of their chemistry. That. And of course, when these two guys start working, it's dead fucking serious. There is no bullshit. It's proper musicians with a proper place to take the atmosphere from, and you can hear that, especially in the old albums. And then that's mainly where I want them to go if they're going to do anything, to tap into that. They had a thing, and they need to find that again. Like just like Paul and Gene had in Kiss, or the Immortal guys, or whatever. There's a reason why the shit sounded like it did.
And you're absolutely right. I think it's critical they write together. That like if I were a producer, or if I were if I were a Rick Rubin type character, because it's less about production really, more somebody giving them direction at the start. If they never, not that they would, but if they asked me for any advice, like what I would say, you guys need to be in a room writing the shit together. No writing stuff separately. No, I contribute this song, he contributes this song, right together, because when the two of you are doing what you do side by side, it's amazing. It's like it's one of the best pairings in I think all genres, musical history, like Page and Plant, Slash and Axl. Well, I would actually argue Izzy and Slash, but and Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, like the best of the best pairings in the world. Those two are amongst the elite of the elite, all genres, but they have to be doing it together. It can't be anything that they do separately.
No, that's very true. And as I said, if you add then, if they remove themselves a little bit from the world and just fuck off up into the mountains or back into the woods at home or whatever, they picked up this feeling, and kind of gonna go back to that and just look each other in the eyes and it's something about letting out the fucking, I don't know if it's rage, but this creative madness too. But because I see in a lot of the people I grew up with and who are now in a gazillion different bands, for some reason it starts to kind of cringe a bit in them, and they don't dare to kind of deliver full on anymore. It's like they're feeling a little bit stupid for doing this, even though we're 50 and stuff like this.
Yeah, and, there's like a self-consciousness that starts to creep into
that's you can see it in some of the bands I've been watching when we're playing festivals, and I get to kind of scan a bunch of bands in a couple of days, and it's like, I was watching Paradise Lost play After Us on a festival in Holland, and it's like,
don't you dare say anything about Paradise Lost on this podcast, mate.
I gotta tell you this, I have loved them since the demos. I love the old Paradise Lost stuff, but I lost track a bit, and I worked for them in
Paradise Lost stuff.
Oh fuck, man! No, and I'm gonna tell you why. And don't you cry. No, I worked for Paradise Lost when I worked all these concerts that we talked about. I worked for Paradise Lost in 2001, and when they started the fucking drum machine. and there was keyboard kind of techno kind of sounds coming.
The magical stuff.
I was so disappointed. I walked home and I spent the whole gig at home, and I walked back and I took down their fucking equipment. Yeah, no, but what I was going to say now, because what they played on this festival, it was back in 2019. They played beautiful. They played a lot of the old songs that really gets me emotionally. But talk about a band who was just standing there, and I know they're a doom band, doom gothic death band, but the guys looked like they enjoy themselves, apart from the vocalist, man. I don't remember his name anymore.
Nick.
Yeah, Nick. He looks fucking bored, and I'm sorry, man. Don't cry on me now. But he looked bored. He looked like he didn't want to be there at all. And half an hour later, Sodom came on, and it was like, ooh, okay, this is fucking passion. Christ passion.
Yeah.
So there was something happening there where there was just like like we talked about. It was like, are they at fucking rehearsal or what? And I saw My Dying Bride not that long before that, and they fucking deliver, man. It's like they had the full thing going on, as they say.
But that's, I think, because Aaron is on a different trip when it comes to what he channels. Like he takes it so seriously as well.
He goes far. He just becomes it. He's like what do you call actors when they're
method actors?
Method acting. He's one of those who goes. I think I do that a little bit myself, actually, when I go into the whole thing. Like the hour before I go on stage, I probably change a bit.
Yeah. No, I will admit I am the biggest mark for Paradise Lost on the face of the earth. I got into them on Gothic, so I sort of grew with them as they changed. And initially, I remember when 1 Second came out, I was like, this is a bit different.
Yeah.
But that album grew on me, and then Host came out, and I was like, oh, this is very different. I was like, but I actually still like it, and that I stuck with that. I've just never not liked them. I've never. I can't say honestly that I've ever disliked a single thing that Paradise Lost has done. I've never fallen out of love with them. I love them just as much as when I first heard them. And I remember clearly hearing Gothic for the first time, hearing the song Gothic.
Oh, yeah.
And hearing those female vocals. It was the first time I heard female vocals deployed that way. And with that riff and Greg's fucking crazy way of playing leads, he can wrench so much out of like 3 notes, like
they're magicians just a few notes and just playing the right fucking note at the right time kind of concept.
And equally, when I've seen them live, I mean, it's probably hypocritical to say, considering my thoughts generally on inactivity on stage, but I've loved it. I've loved every second of it, but I think it's because I love the music so much.
I just wanted to see it more in Nick's eyes. I wanted him to, when they're gonna do the songs from Gothic and stuff, fucking do them. Like I want to see you suffer a little up here, because that's what they're all about. And it's not been talked enough about how, especially Paradise Lost, but also Anathema. How these guys created a completely new genre out of death metal and Gothic music, and just made this thing that Theater of Tragedy and Nightwish and all these bands just grabbed onto and took off to all kinds of different directions. Those bands wouldn't be here if it wasn't because of those, My Dying Bride, Paradise Lost, and Anathema kind of bands.
Yeah, and I've over the years I've learned to forgive Paradise Lost and My Dying Bride for what they did there, but it's for foisting Nightwish upon us. But I mean, I was never the biggest fan of like that Gothic doom style of metal, but My Dying Bride and Paradise Lost were 2 bands I really gravitated towards.
Yeah, no, I like Anathema as well, but it was with all those bands, it was like 2, 3, 4 albums, and then I kind of fell off. But then it was the 90s made me fall off. It was not them, but the whole everything. I was searching for different music. So when I think metal was starting to turn shit, like especially in the late 90s, I turned around and I said, okay, there's a lot of electronic music that I didn't catch up with the last 10 years. So I'm gonna go there. So I went, to back to electronic, aggressive German music and shit like that, just to focus on something completely different than bands like Front 242 and, back to the industrial stuff, because I love some of that old industrial stuff as well.
The just on My Dying Bride, if you've not paid much attention to their them for the last 20 years or whatever, there
No,
is
I haven't.
gold in like the post 2000 records, absolute gold.
Yeah.
One record I would strongly recommend you check out, Songs of Songs of Darkness, Words of Light.
Yeah, I have that.
Uh,
I downloaded a bunch of
Mate.
albums in 2015, so I've got all the stuff up to 2015.
Mm.
And yeah,
I
I
would
heard
say
that.
those are easily on a par with Turn Loose the Swans, Like Gods of the
Yeah,
Sun.
but
Those
it's
records,
it's the intensity that started to come. That's one of the few bands that in the middle of the 2000 kind of just turned up the intensity and
yeah.
started to growl again and just like. And I saw Paradise Lost did it too, but they came later on. But they really started to crank up, and the whole theatrics and everything started to. And I think that's cool. They had to go somewhere. So I'd rather they go there than more poppy or techno or all the weird shit people do with
Oh,
their
I was about to
music.
say, go the direction the Theatre of Tragedy went, which was like
Oh fuck that.
they went basically into full on pop music. They could have been
Uh,
on
I,
Eurovision.
I know, and the tragedy about that tragic band is that I know the people. They're from Stavanger. They lived just down the road when we were doing Gehenna.
Mm.
And it's always some of the guys are cool. A couple of the guys are fucking obnoxious, but a couple of the guys are cool. And it's always been hard to be around those guys because they're like, yeah, check out our new stuff, and it's like, fuck, man, I want to puke.
That's
But you're a cool
terrible.
guy. Then how should I fucking tell you? This is like breaking
Yeah.
up with a dude. It's fucking impossible to do that kind of. And I have some other friends too. It's like, yeah, this is my new album. It's like, oh fuck, this reeks. This is
Yeah.
so bad. What am I gonna say now?
And the thing is also like people from a certain style of music, that style especially, they would take it so personally if you told them this sucks.
Oh fuck yeah,
Because
it's all
like,
up in
for
their
them
fucking
it's like
ass.
I've poured my whole heart and soul into this, and it's like, yeah, maybe, but it doesn't change the fact that it
Yeah.
sucks.
Some of those want to be treated like composers, and as well,
Yeah.
it gets really like fucking up their ass. And I
That
can't,
was
I can't
really
do that.
like for me, that was the only music that I genuinely cringed from. Like I didn't like bands like Theatre of Tragedy, like the Shakespearean stuff and the fucking,
Yeah.
like I remember Dismal Euphony was the same. It was to me that was a real blight on black metal. Like I loved black metal for the danger and the menace and the
Yeah.
feeling that you get from
And
hearing
it's
De Mysteries Dom Satanas for the first time, or
fuck
Philosophem
yeah,
for the
yeah.
first time. Like I
But
remember hearing Dunkelheit for the first time, and I was genuinely fucking terrified. I was like, it's the only
good.
music that I heard for the first time that truly made my skin crawl. I was like, I feel like I'm hearing the recorded sounds of a serial killer before he goes out in the prowl. Yeah. And
You want
I
that?
wanted that vibe every time I heard
Yeah.
black metal. Like, so I don't and never have liked music that, I mean, Theatre of Tragedy is not black metal, but I've never liked music in any sphere of metal that to me plays nice or tries to be something safe or something sweet. It tries to make metal something it's not. Like, even if you go back to like Bon Scott era AC/DC, there's still like there's a menace to that music.
Fuck yeah,
You can go to like a song by Motorhead, like The Chase is Better Than the Catch or Dirty Love.
Oh, I love
There's
that song. Fuck
like
me. That's
there's an underlying sense of menace to what's being played
yeah.
there. It sounds okay and accessible on the surface, but it's still nasty. There's a nastiness to it.
You're gonna get slapped if you push this guy.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
all that kind of edge just disappeared with those bands that we just talked about. There's no fucking edge at all. And it's weird that you mentioned that other band, that Dismal Euphony band,
Yeah, I
because
remember that very
they're,
well. That
they're also from Stavanger. And I was doing a little project with a guy called Eric, who actually did some Nocturnal Breed vocals on one song once. And I was doing some projects with him in 92 or 93, and we had a little project called Dismal, but it never went anywhere. And then Eric started in what became Dismal Euphony. So I had a little finger in there, and that was like, well, that's pretty cool. And then we started to hear the music, and it's like, no, it's not cool anyway. Fuck this. It's fuck.
this
They
is not
took
my
this
vibe.
road. Oh fuck you. No, but I don't know, that edge. That's also like in the new Nocturnal Breed album. I tried not to limit myself to any form of political standards or anything. Just to keep that edge, to be actual angry, like really angry. Say, hey, fuck you, man. Kind of like let it out there, you know, to, I don't know, maybe people can feel it, but at least when I went to see some of those old metal bands and stuff, and you know, you don't go up on this stage, these people are gonna fuck you up, you know, because there's an attitude there. It's just like, oh, come on, man. Even though it's
that's
the
always the
tiniest
thing
guys.
that's always the thing that's appealed to me most. Like you know, you talk about hardcore. I remember seeing Biohazard live for the first time. It was one of the most mind-blowing experiences of my entire life. It was like I have never seen a crowd so violent and so fucking unhinged, and it was so glorious. The whole experience, like the band is just shouting shit at the audience all the time. The crowd is fucking each other up. There's people being stretched out constantly. You know, it was exactly how I wanted a show to be. Like, I think Billy was already crowd surfing before the fucking second song had even began. He's like,
Oh, that's early. That's, I always wanted that. I always, even when I was young, I was dreaming about going to New York and seeing a band like Cro-Mags, for example, because those New York hardcore concerts in the middle of the 80s.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't go to Cro-Mags gig and you're gonna be fucking beaten to death while you're out there. But man,
my friend Leorcifer, he told me that like a Biohazard show in the late '90s in New York, it's like you literally took your life in your own hands going into that club. He was like, it used to get so he said it's fucking unhinged. Like, he's a big dude. He's like 6'3", 6'4", and he was like, I felt nervous as shit walking into that venue.
Fuck. So, but it's you get that loaded feeling with that, because that brings in a lot of big fighter guys, you know, those concerts, and it just kind of packs in there, and to the point where you're like, I remember looking at
it brings the real deal in. It's like, you know, I've been to like a lot of like modern deathcore shit bands, like their shows, and you get these scrawny little geeks there that think they're tough, and they've got their shirt off, and they're doing their windmills, and they're kicking and their bullshit. But then there's always like a couple of the dudes on the periphery, the old guard, and you just know, like, that guy, if he inches closer to that guy, and he happens to clip him with his little Van sneaker or his you know, Osiris shoe, he's gonna get a fucking whipping.
Yeah. I remember we did this at concerts. Actually, we used to run around in concerts and Maiden concerts and stuff, and for some reason they never caught us and beat us up. But we used to take a running speed, and we jumped up with our knees out, and you just hit one of those big guys in the back, just, and you run like fuck to the other side because there's 7,000-8,000 people, and you just, you know, go into the crowd there. You know, I had no idea why we did it, but that was really cool to see these guys, just because you break backwards. You know, you have this knees coming in your back.
I've seen a couple of guys take like younger cats take a serious hammering at shows. There was one show where I saw Cryptopsy play, and I was standing on the like at the you've played at the Underworld in London, I'm sure. So there's
I've been there, but I haven't played there.
Okay, well, you know the balcony right by the stage. I was standing on the balcony, like right next to the stage, so I could see into the crowd, and I could see this one guy is like, you know, he's kind of solo moshing, so he's not in with the rest of the pit. He's just there by himself, pushing people, being a moron. And I could see the guy behind him is getting more and more and more pissed off. And I turned to the dude that was standing next to me. I said, "Take a look at that." I said, "I guarantee you, in the next 5 minutes, that something's going to pop off there." And sure enough, this guy must have bumped into him a couple too many times. He grabbed this kid, pulled his shirt over his head, and started just throwing these bomb uppercuts into his face.
Shit.
And this kid is like, screaming.
And you're fucking blinded as well.
Oh, dude, I was laughing my head off. I was like, you know, you mess with the bull, you get the horns, mate. This is just how it works.
I mean, you deserve, like, just like what we were doing. We deserved a fucking beating. We just got away with it. But it was with the intention that if we get caught now, we will get fucking beaten. You know, but it was a little extra little edge there for a while.
I saw another guy at Sick of It All. It was the same thing. It was, you know, the old guard that, you know, they've been fans of Sick of It All since the 80s. They're there. They're not in the mood to mosh. Like, don't, like, they're like, you know, enjoy the pit to the front of the stage. Don't come anywhere near the back. And this kid keeps bumping in the back, and this guy literally picks him up by his collar and his like his jeans and like throws him. I mean, the guy must have. I mean, this kid couldn't have weighed more than about 120 pounds, soaking wet. And the way the guy threw him, he flew by my count at least 1.5 meters into the audience.
That's cool. One of those film things.
Yeah, no, big time. So another story I wanted to talk to you about that's come out as of today, actually. So Joel Lindholm of Marduk has been fired with immediate effect because this fucking buffoon at the Incineration Fest in London this weekend got drunk and decided it would be a good idea to do a Nazi salute on stage. And it's like,
Oh, we go there again.
with a band that already has controversy swirling around them, and I sure don't want it. And I think they handled it the right way, kicking him out. I mean, they literally said it's
Yeah.
intolerable behavior. We're kicking him out immediately. But it's like, how fucking stupid can you be in 2023 to do that?
I don't know. I'm so tired of people doing this. I don't know, these stupid things like that. What's the fucking point? He probably got drunk and he got a high on himself, and "Well, I want to really provoke everyone," and of course he probably did. But I don't see any point in that. I would do exactly the same thing if
Yeah.
one of my guys did it, and especially in these times we are in now. That this is going to be controversial and bad for the band, and this is a professional band who lives from this very professionally. So. Well, fuck him, if he's this stupid, probably
Yeah.
no point having him going on in the band anyway.
No, it's just like I just thought to myself when I saw that, I was like, knowing the way Mortis is, I'd be surprised if the guy didn't take a bit of a hiding backstage for that.
There might have been some.
Came backstage and he slowly took his belt off and he said, "This is going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt me."
Fucking, I don't want to be on that backstage. Oh
No.
man. No, but
So
it's just dumb as fuck. There's nothing more to really say about it. It's stupid
yeah,
as fuck to do that.
I just
And it has no point anywhere. There's no political meaning. There is no musical meaning. There's no fucking meaning these days doing that.
it's also 2023. You are literally, it's like taking a fucking chainsaw and dropping it straight into your crotch, artistically speaking, because you are if it's like the purest and quickest form of social suicide you could possibly you could possibly commit.
Yeah.
And
No,
then, as you say,
it's
to do it to a band that they make a living off of that, so it's hard enough for them playing certain venues because you've got the Antifa
yeah.
types out there,
They
complaining about it.
already get cancelled, so this doesn't
Yeah.
really help out the whole thing.
So
No.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit more again about like the old school scene and more kind of, I guess, partly philosophical stuff, but things I didn't touch on last time that that lingered with me after we spoke. I mentioned it before. I work with a lot of folks from Scandinavia, some folks from Norway, a lot of folks from Sweden. And my observation of people that I've met from there has always been they're very socially quite buttoned down. They're very polite. They certainly nothing like the goddamn Neanderthals that live in this country. They, there's a let's put it this way. There's a polish to them as people that is absent from a lot of other countries. And so if you know them in the way that I've gotten to know folks from Scandinavia, and then you go to 1992 and you look at what was happening in the scene at the time, it's sometimes hard to kind of to bring the two together, right? You
Yeah.
can't believe that this people from this culture, this background would be capable of doing something that's so wild, so outlandish. What, from your perspective, having kind of seen it evolve and develop and being in it at the time, what do you think was the spark that I guess that lit the torch when it came to black metal? What really kind of kicked it off, and why do you think? Because it feels like when you look at it as well, it feels like it was necessary, like it was a necessary release for the people that were in it for this to happen. But what was it that you think drove that from your perspective?
The first thing that people have to remember is that black metal was created long before all the media frenzy and the
Yeah.
church burnings and Varg and all that shit. So it was already there. It was already established. And I've said this a couple other places before too. I think the reasons you say now, the way you observe Scandinavians and Norwegians, that is why it suddenly just kind of belly flopped around. Because we grow up in this kind of half not half, but this socialistic, half communist kind of way, but everything is like a little bit overly kind, almost like TV series in the 80s, where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is nice, but this is, there's something a bit fake going on about it. And a certain group of people just, from when I was young, from all of the guys that I know in this scene, from they were young, started to just question shit. What is this Christianity shit we get like poured down our heads? We just have to, everyone has to be polite, and it's in a way it's really weird that this didn't come out of England, because the over politeness in Britain is, it must drive some people fucking crazy to be this fucking polite all the time. So it's almost like that. It's a counter reaction to all the niceness, and it's so good, and then you kind of peek behind, the curtain. Is like, no, it's not that fucking good. Oslo was a fucking crap fucking place when I grew up. It looks like Dublin in the 70s. It's just dark and gray and black and drunks everywhere, and it's like, and still everyone's pretending that it's really good, and we have this oil money, and it's just, I don't know, it's like watching evangelistic TV in the States. If you watch that for an hour, you just feel this fucking horns grow and grow and grow. It was that
Yeah.
kind of feeling, and music just slid up to it like a car going into the highway, just and it just matched perfectly. And for me, it was like, hanging out and working with one of the guys at Darkthrone and watching them doing the demos and hearing this weird sound developing from what we called Swedish death metal. And, that's what Darkthrone sounded like back then. And then you're having the magic of mayhem out there, and it just all ignited at the real, just like, perfect little sandwich thing that goes on. And it hit, I don't know, in the start, it hit maybe 10, 15 kids in each town, not more.
Yeah.
And then from there, it just took on. That's where all those fine first EPs and first albums, they're in that first, and you can hear it on all of them, first Emperor, Enslaved, Immortal, Gehenna, Satyricon. You can hear it in all of them. There's that insane magic in those first couple of years.
Mm.
And
the Norwegian sound, like what do you think that kind of evolved from? Because there's obvious references, but there's a very specific Norwegian twist to all those bands. Like exactly what you just said now about those first records. There's a distinctness to them that you can't quite put your finger on, but when you know it, and you can hear those bands from a mile off.
it's I can tell you the kind of the little recipe there, because I used it now on the new Nocturnal Breed album, and it's a bit like I talked about earlier. On that first couple of years for all the band, there is no restrictions. There is only this will to make something as good as the other guys, or even maybe better. And I think inside all our heads, we had giant symphonic, dark things going on. But we were all limited to fucking shit equipment, tiny little PV speakers, with 15 watts. What the fuck are you going to do with this thing? And you have the other guy on a Casio keyboard player. What do? Well, you put everything into speaker and you turn up the echoes, because the echoes and, the reverbs, it makes it all kind of blend much more. You don't hear how crap your equipment is. And that's basically all the really fucking brilliant albums. They are made with shit equipment. And
all the really brilliant albums have we have reverb to thank for
reverb,
Norwegian black
yes,
metal.
and you didn't, nothing was digital, everything was like technical. So you have reverb, echoes, flanger, and chorus, and that's about it. And that's what I used on the new Nocturnal Breed album. I restricted myself to those 4 things, and from that you have to try to build a symphony that sounds like $2 million. And then you get the echoey kind of flowy thingy. If you listen to Emperor, there's this touch, there's a room there's a space, and in that space, when you fill that with the images that the riffs and tone and notes give, you get that black metal thing. That's where the snow is, and you can smell the woods and all this shit. And it's just desperation. And we all have had heroes like Kiss and Wasp and all this shit that we grew up with. And you realize first day at rehearsal, we're not going to sound like Kiss, no matter what the fuck we do. So you better come up with something different, and you just have to work I think the magic is there, and that's what I did now with the Breed album. I used shit equipment, recorded on shit equipment, and the keyboard on the new Breed album is an old Casio from 1988 that I took into a guitar amp and then into a bass amp, and I put a microphone on that one. And that's when you get that seventh son of a seventh son kind of keyboard that happens in Knights of Denim song in the middle with all the solos and stuff. And I searched so long to figure out that I want that sound, seventh son of a seventh son keyboards. And it's reverbs, man. It's echoes. That's the whole. That's the thing. And if you listen to some of that, like we talked about earlier, and no offense to the people from here, but like the Central European bands, they have a very big tendency to forget the reverbs and the echo, and it's just dry as a fucking desert, And it needs, listen to an old Battery album. It's drowning in echoes. It's just fucking put it on full. You had a guitar that cost, $100. Well, put some fucking reverbs on that.
There is definitely something to, like, I didn't fully appreciate this until I had thoroughly upgraded my hi-fi, but there's definitely something to the analog recordings and how big it made certain records sound. Like if you listen to, like, you could take a new record, take an album by a bigger band right now, let's say take an album by Ghost, and then take Kiss Alive and you put that on a very high end sound system. Alive will literally wipe its ass with anything that Ghost can do, because not just because the music is better, but the sound is so much bigger and so much more enveloping. And there's a feeling that creates, or there's a connection that creates that resonates at a deeper level. It's an emotional connection that I think a lot of bands that are highly digital in the way that they record, very technically extremely proficient, but there's a loss of emotion there that I think bands would do well to try and rediscover. To your point, the way that you kind of approach this album.
Yeah, I think that's straight on to how it is, because I don't know, when you do everything digital, your guitar goes into a digital box that goes straight into a computer. People skip the whole fucking amplifier thing, and the microphones and all those old stages like that. They create a room, a certain ambiance, to say it fancily. that ambiance is what you hear when people say, "Oh, I love that 80s music." It's the fucking ambiance of the tape recorder, the room you're in. The digital shit takes away all that shit. You don't hear the room he's in. You hear the fucking direct connection in digital points, and everything digital, it stops itself, I don't remember where, but at 30,000 hertz or something like that. An LP with Kiss Alive doesn't stop there. It sometimes bounces up to 50,000 hertz, and that makes the music mix. Everything flows together, and it becomes this composition that it's not possible to do at like people go to, I don't know, these fancy fucking studios, and everything is digital from the second you come in there. You're never gonna get that ambiance, that big room, that thing that you can use as many fucking plugins and things as you want. It's not gonna recreate the room you're in. And that's why all the albums are starting to sound alike, because it's all just plugged into fucking Cubase, so we're getting Cubase sound,
Well, you talk about ambience and reverb creating magic. First thing I thought about was Det som en gång var. I mean that song, when that main riff kicks in, it's like, duh, 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 duh.
And there's a fucking ambiance. If you listen to that guitar and the drums, there's a whole world that's connected to that fucking sound. Or Mysteries Dom Satanas, the drum sound alone is magic. Fucking there's a whole world inside the drum sound on Mysteries album, That's all that shit has gone just in the trash, and no one's fucking doing it. I'm gonna plug into my laptop. Fuck, man. Every old dead artist is just
Let me ask you a question about Varg. Was he, like, when Burzum was coming up, or when over the course of the time he was releasing records, was he an anomaly in the scene? Was he an outsider? How was he kind of taken by folks?
He was an outsider.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was an outsider from the get-go. The way people talked about it before I met him, I only met him a couple of times at Helvet at the record store, and he was just standing there looking evil.
Standing there with his knife and his, his
Yeah,
fucking,
no, but he was. It was noticeable that he was keeping up appearance, and I think that's no matter who you are. I think that's weird to watch people that's like, okay, you're holding up your own image here, you know. But of course, it was with respect. I was younger, and we bought the demos, and everyone was talking about it in kind of hushed tones. So it was kind of. I don't know if I realized it back then, but it was kind of always in the cards that something was going to go really fucking wrong here, or something's going to happen. You know, that kind of vibe and feel around him all the time.
what makes you say that? And I asked that out of, really curiosity more than anything
I,
else.
I can't actually put a finger on it myself. It's the way. I think Euronymous or Eystein was much more afraid of him that he would ever tell anyone around him, just because of the size difference and stuff too. But I think I don't know if anyone said this before, and I'm probably gonna have a lot of people, you know, getting angry. But I think Euronymous understood that Varg is mentally 1,000 times stronger, a million times stronger, and he shows that by what he's doing now. I'm not supporting or talking anything about this politics, but the way he survived.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about what he's talking about, but the way he survived through jail, you mind you, being this kind of person in jail systems that have like 80% people from Pakistan, it's not a cool way to go. So he survived that. That means you're a hard fucking nut to crack. And instead of taking all this fucking, because he is the guy in the black metal scene, apart from Dead and Euronymous, that has the highest fucking, you know, throne.
Yeah.
And he didn't use it. He didn't take anything. He didn't take one fucking piece out of that cake. He just, well, I'm fucking off into nowhere in France.
I was about to say, I'm done with this music business.
Yeah, of course he can live from it, and he was smart, and he made a bunch of music before he went into jail, and he got his wife to do the business, and blah blah blah. So they're smart fucking people, and he didn't ride that fucking beast. You know, that's carry the beast kind of thing. He carries it very well. I don't care about his politics, but he's carrying that beast, and I think Eystein realized that when he met him. And it's one thing because Eystein, I don't know if you read any of those translated letters that Euronymous was sending
No,
to
I
the
didn't.
world, but they're pretty fucking insane, some of them. There are like way the fuck out there. There's page up and down about the most insane shit you can ever imagine. And it's one thing writing that in a little apartment in Oslo, and then you meet the guy that comes from Bergen, and he's like, oh fuck, he really means this more than me. I think that's what happened there. And of course, in an alpha dog kind of position like that, there is always someone who is stronger, and we saw who that was, you know, or madder or crazier, or who wants to take this further, you know. So no, I think that's what kind of happened there. So
what
when
was
I try to look at it,
what was the reaction from the folks in the scene that you knew when the news came out about Euronymous?
it was really weird. It was nothing. I was going to I was taking the last year. I'm educated a classic printer and graphic designer. I was going to school doing that shit, and it was one of those things that we had a Gehenna rehearsal the day before, and then you wake up and you take the bus downtown, and every newsstand there's what? Okay, he's dead. Fuck, what happened here? And I didn't really think that much more about it. It was like, well, that's natural. Kind of giggle a little bit, and you go on with the day. It's really weird. It didn't. It took a long time before it kind of. Oh, he's fucking. The general's fucking gone. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What's gonna happen now? And that's when and everyone just put on their backpack and said, well, we're Norwegian fucking black metal. Let's do it. You know. So it was no mourning. It was not like now when you see everyone posting RIP pictures and people praising. None of that shit. It was just like, well, he died. That kind of comes with the game. Dead died. Okay, we go on.
Yeah, so that's actually, I've never thought about that before. Like, if you think about young men dealing with maybe friends or somebody, people in the scene dying, I don't know if this is going to come out wrong. I hope it won't. But like, was Dead, committing suicide? Was that did that in some way maybe desensitize folks to it? Because that
Yeah.
from at least from my understanding and observation, that was a real shock to a lot of folks.
It
And
was a shock, but I think it was the closer you got to the meme circle, the more shock it was.
yeah,
But for the people like me on the fringes, there's like, well, okay, that
yeah,
happens. Everything was like the bar for how far you could take shit was put so high that everyone enjoyed having a pizza and watching Faces of Death for 6 hours, and you were so numbed out to this shit. So everything was about this. Reading books about dead shit and books that you only get in hospitals, and it was so far. So it just numbed everything out. So I think it was a shock for, of course, Pelle's family in Sweden and the guy around Mayhem, but the rest of the people kind of went, well, okay. Almost like they do now in gangster rap. It's not a big shocker anymore that anyone gets shot. It's like, oh, well,
shot.
whatever.
Yeah.
It just comes with the territory kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, I don't know whether you ever watched that atrocious Lords of Chaos movie, but
No.
I saw it and I was actually annoyed with myself that I'd watched it, because it was like there were two things like I took away from it. One was that I think a lot of what's being represented here is garbage. The other thing was like I thought to myself, this is not how I want to think about these people, because this music meant so much to me. I don't want to. I don't want to. Even though I understand that people were teenagers and stuff, I don't want to see them in my mind's eye as just a bunch of goofy kids, And in some cases, and obviously you separate characters from the real people, yeah. But in some cases, fucking losers. These were my heroes. So it's like
you wouldn't waste 1 fucking hour on some of these guys if you met them now. You would just go, "What the fuck is wrong with you, man?"
So that's the thing that I find interesting when I talk to people now from that scene, or people that that came from that. So many of them seem so well adjusted. I mean, you look at someone like Satyr, right? Like, he's gone on to do exceedingly well for himself. Like financially doing really well.
It's that Norwegian thing that creeps up in us. We were all raised that way, It's very kind of, be polite, be proper, grow your business and do your shit, and it's coming back to a lot of us, or a lot of them. I don't know. I'm not quite like that, but I don't know. It's just a part of the whole thing. We were numbed out for a while, and you see this in all the other scenes as well. That people chill the fuck down after a while, and you have the first 10 years, and then people start to grow up.
Yeah, I'm thinking in my mind to other countries where you see similar sort of, I guess, these expressions of rebellion, right? Like Japan is well known as a country that's there's this highly buttoned down culture. So there's these kind of outbursts of deviance and lowlifes in the underground. But I mean, even something as insane as like the Maoist revolution, or a lot of that was led initially by the youth. Mao was smart enough to figure out that the youth were idiots, and he could deceive them into doing what he wanted them to do. But a lot of a lot of that kind of initial the initial antics, the craziness, the struggle sessions, all of that stuff, that was led by the youth in a weird way. I mean, you look at the woke culture nowadays. Some of that's led by, or big chunk of that's led by the youth as well. Very ignorant youth, but youth all the same.
It's the same thing that happened in the UK with the mods and the punks, for example. They came along and they raged like fucking hell, and then they kind of grew up a little bit and understood that you have to take this politically if you're going to get anything done at all.
So how is black metal thought of now in Norway? Like, is it seen as part of the heritage of the country, part of the culture? Is it, I guess, is it taken as seriously in the country as it's taken by folks outside of the country?
What do you think?
Well, I would think it's a bit like the UK, and to me, the tragedy of the United Kingdom has always been the legacy that they have musically, and the fact that they seem to go out of their way to spit on it at every turn.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's horrible.
You created heavy metal, then you created punk, then you created new wave, goth. You know, you
doom
have
metal, fucking everything, you know.
exactly like you know, you
Trip
innovated
hop.
grindcore, you innovated, yeah. You've
Yeah.
got everyone from Black Sabbath to Killing Joke to Motorhead to Venom to Napalm Death to
Yeah.
Bolt Thrower, My Dying Bride, Paradise Lost. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. There's
Yeah.
a richness of legacy in this country that is, I would argue, almost second to none. And
Yeah,
yet,
it is second to none.
yeah, and
For me, UK is above America. I know some people that cringes for some people, but UK is the original source. That's where fucking Rolling Stones and Beatles and
yeah.
I know Elvis was over there inspiring John Lennon, but apart from that, you know, the fucking feel was created in England,
Mm.
and it's as you say,
I would agree with you, and it seems like they go out of their way to spit at their legacy as much as they possibly can.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when I
yeah.
say they, I mean the royal they. It's not, you know, there are obviously
No, no, no,
people
no.
that
I know what
that
you mean.
kind of
Yeah,
like it, but the pervasive culture has
it's
kind
just,
of really completely turned its back on that.
it's the exactly same shit here. And to kind of make a a little picture of that, we had the Norwegian Emmy Awards kind of music award thing going on now, and they cut away the heavy metal segment that basically only have had black metal bands the last 20 years. They cut it away and they don't show it on TV. That says everything. So it's 1.5 hour with rap and hip hop and country music and heavy metal music that's scraped out. No one gets to see it. So that's what they feel about us. So when you see people in the media, which is like, yeah, oh yes, Dimmy Borgir or Satyricon or whatever, they're so fantastic and they sell and they do and they travel. They just do it because they feel they're like they have to do it. There's no fucking emotion. There's no support like the magazines like Kerrang and Sounds did for New Wobble music when they just like stood behind it like a fucking wall. That's not fucking happening here at all. It's just it's still a little giggling thing, you know, and every now and then you can see a metal kind of persona on some kind of TV shows, and then it's always like a little bit like, oh yeah, we got him on. So, and I know it's the same in Finland and Sweden too. It's like it's accepted, but just a certain little shit point.
Well, in Sweden, it's especially so because as I said, I work with a lot of folks from Sweden, and you know, I'll turn up sometimes to a work call with a Marduk T-shirt or something like that, and most of them don't know what I'm even on about. Like I've never heard of that shit before in my life. I'm like,
No.
really? Like, you know, you don't know the Gothenburg black metal scene. What the fuck's
No,
wrong
no.
with you? So,
But all of these countries they've been hung up on certain things. Like Denmark had Lars Ulrich, and they're fucking happy with that. We're out of here.
yeah.
Sweden had ABBA. Okay, thank you. We're fucking out of here. And we had AHA, and everyone is still talking about fucking AHA. You know, it's like they don't get out of this fucking, I don't know, media created circles that they're walking around in. So, but you know,
The
black
stage
metal was
for me when it comes to Norwegian
we
music.
never created this fucking music for for the media to be jolly about us. It's just like the more criticism, the more shit we got. Well, fuck you then. So it worked the opposite way. Just like punk. You didn't want a kind hand. You wanted people to fuck off, or you wanted to spit on them. It's all kind of that attitude, and that's certainly fucking gone.
I would definitely say, as a side note, I was just what I was mentioning earlier. The groundwork was laid for me with Norwegian music, that my path would go into Norwegian music, because when I was a very young man, like 6, 7 years old, AHA was the fucking band. I
Yeah, but
remember getting
they're good. They're good as
hunting
fuck.
high and
Yeah,
low. What a
yeah.
well, actually, sorry, it was Scoundrel Days was the album. What an
I,
album!
I I think those three first AHA albums are ground setting when it comes to pop music, and of course they had to go to the UK to get it out and get it released, or anyone to take them fucking serious. Because up here in Norway, then this was just like a bunch of hillbillies on a little rock. People just go, "Oh, what the fuck is pop music?" Everyone was liking Eurovision songs back then.
Yeah. Well,
So, they're
the
good.
thing is, in a way, I think it's good, because I mean, firstly, I despise Eurovision, but also I would hate if I ever saw, let's think, Taco. I saw, God forbid. I mean, I know Mayhem never would, but like any Norwegian black metal band, if I saw, Hordem Rife or something like that on Eurovision, I think I would cut my face off. I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could ever deal with that. Like that would just be such a blow to everything I hold dear in life. It would be insurmountable.
I think that band Keep of Kalesin, they tried,
Yeah, that's
but
true. Actually,
they got kicked out of the Norwegian finals, but they tried.
they're very shit though. So it's
I never we played one gig with them once, and they looked scared on stage.
yeah,
That's the only thing I remember. I hate
that's
bands who look
they
scared on stage.
they should look scared on stage because they should have known that right after you get off stage, that's when the beatings begin. All right, my brother. Listen, I'm going to wrap it up.
Yeah,
But
man.
I have had such a fucking blast talking to you. It's one of those things. Again, I was thinking about, because we'd had such an epic conversation the first one. I was thinking in the run up to this, what are we going to talk about? And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not going to think about anything. And I had a couple of those news stories I wanted to run by you, but outside of that, I'm not going to even come close to preparing anything. I'm just going
That's cool,
to
man.
go. Here we are 2 hours later. One day, I hope in the very near future, we can sit down and we can have a couple of beers, listen to some music, and we'll
We
record
will do that, man. We
conversations
will
live,
do that.
without a doubt.
Yeah, I'm just a little announcement just at the end here, because I just worked myself so fucking into the ground on this latest album, so I am actually leaving all forms of social media the first week of July. My
Oh,
manager,
really?
Kjell, yeah, my manager, he is taking over all the band pages, and I have to remove myself from Facebook and Messenger and those kind of things. And I will keep in touch with you, and I will keep in touch with a handful of other good people that I really enjoy talking to and being around. And apart from that, I have to take all the business through the management, because I've ended up now, waking up and I have 50, 60 mails.
Yeah.
And
I know what you mean.
I'm created like this, that if a guy actually took the time to sit in fucking Colombia and write me a little mail that I hardly can understand what he's even writing, just to tell how cool he fucking thinks this shit is.
Mm.
I'd be a fucking ass not to answer people, and I can't sit around with this constant fucking feeling that I need to spend 10 days answering people, and sending greetings and hails and hellos and beer glasses, and it's driving me fucking nuts. So it's not to offend anyone, but I need to focus on myself for 5 fucking minutes, and that's why I just kind of remove myself from the constant white noise a little bit. So,
Well,
but as I said,
I'll drop you a line after this with my cell phone number. So let's for sure stay in touch.
yeah, I will stay in touch with you, and it's not to offend other people in the scene or stuff too, but I can't live my life through others and through others' eyes and everything. I just need to fucking focus on my shit. And I've been online for 13 years, and it's been a social study for sure.
Well, I mean, you've seen how social media has rapidly driven people fucking insane, and I feel like that spiral is goes faster and faster, or the cycle is accelerating on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. It's fucking nuts. It has a lot of benefits. Well, I mean, you and I wouldn't have met if not for it.
Yeah,
Many of the folks that I've had on the
absolutely.
podcast I wouldn't have met. But it's I do dream of the days when all we had was like a landline, and that's it.
Yeah.
You called your friends and said you were going to be at a place at a certain time, and that was that. There's no sending a text. There's no let's FaceTime instead or any such bullshit.
No, I'm just going back to I'm gonna pretend it's 1991 or 1988 or something like that, and just say, okay, fuck it, man. And some of the reason is also because since I've been online and watching social media, some of my heroes have fucked it up so bad that I'm not listening to their albums anymore, and I had to sell their fucking albums.
Yeah.
And fuck that shit, man. I liked it when it was mystical. I want everyone to be like Quarton, just to fuck the hell off and be mystical and weird in their own way. And when I started to look at some of those main figures of a couple of bands that I really loved, and it's like, after a year, you just destroyed everything I felt about your band. And
Yeah, dude, that's always been it's always a gamble. Like like doing this podcast too, right? I've said this
yeah, yeah,
many times on the podcast. It's like you get somebody on whose music you really love and you're super excited about it, and there's always a part of me that's like, please don't let this guy be an asshole, because if
yeah,
he is, I'm going to be devastated at the fact that I'm not
yeah,
going to be able
yeah,
to
yeah.
listen to their music anymore.
Yeah, I'm just like that, and that's one of the main reasons, because it's cringing when I see some of those guys go on their political perfect rants and vegan shit, and it's just like,
Yeah.
fuck, I can't. This is people who used to say, ugh, and now you're just, I don't know, I can't do it. So people, I'm out of here.
Well, brother, thank you very, very much for your time, and we will definitely speak again soon, no matter what platform you find yourself on.
Yeah.
I don't have a fax machine, so if you're going to send me one of those, you know, that
I,
might
I,
be
I,
an issue.
I'm gonna set up a telex, the good
Oh,
old telex,
so we
telex
can start
machine.
writing. We can start writing each other letters.
Yeah, I'm gonna start sending out demos on beta tapes, and yeah, I'm gonna go for the whole thing. 8 tracks, fucking 8 tracks from now on, man.
All right, brother. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
See
Talk to
you
you
all,
soon.
people. Thank you,
Bye
mate.
bye.
Bye bye.
Business of being a headbanger, because that's what I'm good at.
What's over Varg Vikernes? Through the tops of gold and steel. Feeling nothing lifted, noise of terror. I am starting, the sound level, the vital pull of spear. Holding all the aces, noise of terror. From the force and iron mills, face the overlords. Underground, they call them Rise of Terror. Nothing in life, cavalry, they the devil came to town. Down the avenue, get the Rise of Terror.
Heavy metal sound out. LK bandwagon in North London. Patched denim but worn with leather jackets and shiny metal stuff. Even the clothes have an aggressive look about them.
Open the gates, all hell broke loose. That was it. They came from everywhere.
Victory, what is this as the blood of the kings? Take this night to raise those glasses high. Death ball and broken no more. Now the race of our social love. Mighty mind and steal his soul. There's no more life to run.
You just listened to Knights of Denim by Nocturnal Breed off their forthcoming album Carry the Beast, due out on Dark Essence Records on June the 23rd. I've heard the whole thing and it is excellent. Also, if you are watching this on YouTube, you would have seen the world premiere of the lyric video for Knights of Denim, which Svartalv very kindly let me have for the show. So thank you to him. Thanks very much to him for his time. That was a massively fun conversation, and we will almost definitely have another one, I would hope, before the year's end. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as well. Right now, my friends, if you think that Ayanna Presley is a smart woman, and that London Breed has done a fantastic job as mayor of San Francisco, it's time for you to get to stepping, because this is my weekly news rant. All right, let's do this shit. The first headline. It seems like we can't get away from Norway this week, but Cadaver have announced their 6th full-length release. It says here, Norwegian death metalers Cadaver are proud to reveal the release of their 6th full-length installment, The Age of the Offended, on July 21, 2023, via Nuclear Blast Records. Recorded at Daufenbach Studio Villa Necro, Studio Tomb and Studio. I think I should change the name of where I lived to Villa Necro. Anyway, it says here, Adair Daufenbach was responsible for producing, engineering, mixing, and mastering. Alongside unveiled details, the band offer fans the first taste of the album with the title track. Let's give it a spin. So it says here, Anders Odden comments, we began working on the Age of the Offender during the pandemic in 2020 and 2021. We aimed to push the boundaries of our music, adding all the flavors we like in the mix. We rejoined forces with Eilert Stolstad, the bass player from In Pains, as well as guitar wizard Ronnie Letecro. The collaboration led to an album that sounds out of this world and sends our music into the stratosphere. The theme, The Age of the Offended, is a node to the times we live in. The chaos, conflicts, and turmoil of the human condition will never stop inspiring us. The title track reflects this vision by pointing to the zeitgeist and works as the perfect soundtrack to the current post-apocalyptic world. That first minute is pretty interesting. I don't know whether it's completely blowing me away, but it feels like this is definitely a grower. The riffing's pretty cool. Initially, it sounded almost to me like that additional instrument was like an organ or something, and I was like, are they trying to do a death metal version of Ghost? But then the song, starts to find its feet when the vocals kick in, and it's pretty enjoyable so far. So let's get back to it. Yeah, like I said, I'm still in the same place that I was at after the first 60 seconds. I'm not sure I'm ready to declare this, worthy of a top-notch accolade quite yet, but it's pretty good. These guys did a record back in 2001 called Discipline under the name Cadaver Inc. And I was just reminded of that when I heard that. I haven't listened to this record in ages, but I do remember really, really liking it when it came out. So I figured, what the hell? Let's give it a quick listen and see if this is a record that I desperately need to revisit. Skip ahead I'm going to skip to the 2-minute mark. That's definitely more my vibe than the song that we just heard. So if you're going to revisit a record from, probably buried pretty deep in the archives, that Cadaver Incorporated record, Discipline, very, very cool. But like I said, I will hold my judgment until that album comes out properly. What I heard was not bad. As I said, I think it's something that requires probably a good amount of, solid, concentrated end-to-end listening. Okay, next up, we've got Infernal Curse. They have premiered a new track called Black Mass Shepherd. It says here, the Argentinian Black Death cult Infernal Curse premiered the new track Black Mass Shepherd, which serves as the second preview from the band's long-awaited third album, Revelations Beyond Insanity, set for international release on June the 23rd, via Iron Bonehead Productions. generally speaking, a record label, I think we can all agree, is pretty decent. The first Infernal Curse song, I suspect, passed us by on the news rant, so not sure yet what to expect from these guys. I've never heard Infernal Curse before, but we're about to find out. Skip ahead because as cool as that sounds, it's kind of got like a 70s horror, like satanic horror throwback feel to it. I want to hear what happens when the action kicks in. That is pretty cool. I like that album cover. Svartalv was talking earlier in the podcast about all the best stuff being recorded using shit equipment and tons of reverb. I would say he's onto something as far as Infernal Curse is concerned. It's just got an instantly agreeable vibe to it. It sounds dark, dingy. It sounds like it was maybe recorded inside of a tumble dryer, inside a working and operating tumble dryer. I'm finding this instantly appealing, more appealing than I found the Cadaver track. That bass that's rumbling under the guitar there, it sounds so fucking cool. Very, very old school, but awesome. I'll tell you who I suspect would fucking love this, and that is one Matt Prezzo of Sick. And by the way, thank you very much, guys, for the great response you gave Matt and the gang in Sick after I premiered that song last week. I'm trying to get back to, based on the feedback that I got from you guys, I'm trying to get back to doing like a song by, an unknown stroke underground stroke unsigned band at the start of the show. Obviously I've done Sick today, or not today, on this episode I did Necrophilosophy, and I'm going to try and include something every single week. But it's awesome. Like I said on last week's episode, it's always, for me right now, it's about, can I on this podcast move the needle for bands that I like? And it's awesome to see, just based on stuff like social media follows alone, I can see that there's a lot of folks that follow into the Necrosphere that are suddenly following Sick. And I've seen that with other bands as well. So yeah, that to me is cool, and it's something I'm going to continue doing. But it's a thumbs up from me on Infernal Curse. I'm definitely going to check this out. June 23rd. Is there some sort of cosmic significance to June the 23rd? Because fucking everyone is releasing a record on June the 23rd. Anyway, okay, let's move on. Fraught have signed a contract with Argonauta Records. Irish blackened sludge metal formation Fraught have joined forces with Argonauta Records for the release of the band's upcoming studio album, Details Coming Soon. to taste a piece of it, give a listen to the Indignities of Decay single. And they've got it here. So, again, Fraud, not a band that I'm aware of, but Blackened Sludge, it sounds reasonably appealing. So, fingers crossed, it lives up to my expectations. I don't know. When I think of Blackened Sludge, I think of something like Johnny the Boy, who I've been raving about for the last couple of weeks and will continue to rave about. When that album comes out, guys, you are in for an absolute treat. And I get what they're trying to do here, but it's just not my cup of tea. I'm sure there's going to be people that like it. I mean, speaking of which, Kanate, I don't know if that's the way you pronounce it, or Kanate. Anyway, they've put out a new record, and some of my fellow horsemen were very, very excited about that, including my main man, Ralph Schmidt. But I gave that a listen, and personally, I would sooner listen to Silence. So, again, maybe it's something that's going to grow on me in time. But my initial impressions were not positive, I'll tell you that much. Okay, let's move on. We've got Oxbow streaming Icy White and Crystalline Song. I quite like Oxbow. I kind of went back and rediscovered a lot of their stuff after Mike Hill had Eugene on Everything Went Black. And Eugene feels to me like a dude who I would quite like to get on the podcast at some point. I think that's a conversation I may need to do some preparation for, because he is a fucking very intelligent man. And I suspect we probably have a difference of opinion on a couple of things. So I would like the conversation to be cordial, but, let's have a real proper conversation. But like his music, generally speaking, or like all of the musical projects he's been involved in, and I like the cut of the man's jib. He's like an African American Henry Rollins. And I've always thought that of him ever since I've been conscious of Oxbow and Oxbow's music. But anyway, says here, U.S. veterans Oxbow have premiered a video clip for Icy White and Crystalline, the second advanced single of their forthcoming Love's Holiday album. The latter drops on July 21st via Epicac Recordings. In support of this release, they will embark on a European tour in September. I think the first single, I don't know whether we listened to it on the news rant, but I have heard it, and it is cool. So let's hear if it's 2 for 2 for these guys.
You don't know how
I dig it. I think if if you somebody who listens to this podcast because the vast majority of your day is spent listening to Panzer Division Marduk, I don't think it's necessarily going to be your cup of tea, but I like it. This to me is something where Oxbow is one of those bands that have a lot of songs that are on the surface very easy to access. It's something you can get into pretty easily. Without having to put a huge amount of thought into it, but then the more you listen to it, the more you start picking up the layers underneath, which is probably kind of a little bit like Eugene Robertson, the man himself. But yeah, like his vocals, like the instrumentation on the song. I like the whole vibe of the tune. I think it's great, and I think this album is going to be one to watch for sure, even if it doesn't necessarily fall into the usual cult, necro, grim, evil shit that I'm typically interested in. But let's give it another 60 seconds.
Like a barrister for the prosecution on the charge prostitution.
Yeah, like it. And as I said, at some point, I'm definitely going to have to try and get Eugene on the podcast. All right, Evile have announced a new album. Thrash metal masters Evile proudly announced the release of their next full-length installment, The Unknown. It's due out on July 14th via Napalm Records, comprised of 10 new tracks, and it features cover artwork by Ilarian Cantor. The Unknown was mixed and mastered by Chris Clancy, and for a preview, you can check out a video clip for the album's first single or title track. Additionally, Evile have announced a first batch of shows up and down their country at the end of the year to promote their upcoming music output. Evile, I can take or leave. They've had some good songs. They've got a lot of shit that I've heard, and it's just kind of went in one ear and out the other. But let's hear if they got their acts together in 2023.
Are you waiting for the unknown? Are you waiting for the unknown? Are you waiting for the unknown? Are you waiting?
Right. Last week, I can't even remember who the band was that I said, is potentially going to win the Watain Award for Biggest Surprise of the Year. I think these guys are now officially the front runners. I'm only 52 seconds in, but that is fucking excellent. Vocals are kick-ass. I love the simplicity of the riff, but I love how hard it hits. Like, everything here is, the instrumentation, everything is pretty economical. They're obviously not kind of going the typical thrash route and, doing the standard speedy beat and stuff they've kind of been known for doing. This is a bit different for them. And as I'm listening to this, I also read the commentary below. It says here, we're really excited to start revealing the next page in the Evile chapter, says frontman O.L. Drake. We've taken a completely different approach on this album, and I look inward for inspiration. I've opened myself up like I never thought I would. We've always been at 500 miles an hour, like on the previous album, Hell Unleashed. And this time around, we felt we wanted to try the polar opposite, some slower than we've ever done tempos with more melodic vocal hooks, and give Adam some freedom on the leads and writing. I've been working on my vocals since diving in the deep end in 2021, and we've worked hard for 2 years on this, so I'm excited for everyone to hear the fruits of our labor. We're really proud of all we accomplished on this album. This is one I hope can catapult us to more ears and places than we've been before. Places we haven't been before to play for some people who are constantly asking us to play in their area. First up is the title track, The Unknown. I wrote the basic lyrical content and concept back in 2017 when I was out of the band. The song deals with my fears and anxieties of becoming a father for the first time and the doubts and worries that come with the responsibilities it brings. That is excellent. If they were going to, expand to a wider audience, count me as part of that. Because previously, as I said, I could take or leave them. But this is fucking brilliant. Let's get back to it.
I wait for you to be. I'm born to see the light conceived awaiting. She'll meet our world pursuing harmony. But with her gaze, will she see someone prepared? The die is cast, pure blood, hand unto me. She'll need a hand to grasp, can I believe? Father, be there. Deep down I tremble, at surface smile. Will I resemble? Sworn to protect now, who grows inside. Be now my teacher, be now my guide. Fear the unknown, serenity.
It's kind of got a bit of an Alice in Chains vibe almost to it. It's like Alice in Chains. I can hear a bit of, dare I say it, Machine Head, but good, the better parts of Machine Head's discography. And there are good parts, as much as I think Rob Flynn is an imbecile. They've had some songs. But like I said, this is very cool. Great production as well. And man, those vocals are awesome. Absolutely awesome. And then they even threw in a quick gang vocal there at the end, which to me is always a plus. I think there's an awful lot that you can make up for. There's an awful lot of deficiencies you can make up for with a well-timed, well-placed gang vocal. Okay, Apotheus have debuted a new track, Shape and Geometry, the first single from Apotheus's upcoming studio album Ergo Atlas, has premiered online in the form of an official music video directed by Fabio Cornerio. The new outing will be released on September the 15th by Black Lion Records. I would ordinarily not even have bothered to give this band a second look, but Black Lion Records has been on such a tear of late, I'm instantly interested. So let's hear what Apotheus sounds like. I can see that some people would like that, but that is definitely not me. But I mean, from a business perspective, I've just spoken about how Black Lion Records have been on a tear. I can see why you would sign something like that. I mean, you can't have an entire roster of grim, evil shit and hope to, hope to pay the bills. You know what I mean? Okay, let's move on. Outer Heaven, sophomore album detailed. Infinite Psychic Depths is the title of the newly announced full-length by American death metal band Outer Heaven. The crushing new music effort was recorded by Ryan Reed and mixed and mastered by Greg Wilkinson at Earhammer Studios. It will be set free on July 14th through Relapse Records. They have a song here, but it is on Bandcamp, so let's see if we can find it on YouTube. We can indeed. So, yeah, let's give it a listen. That is pretty damn good, and the music video is fucking hysterical. I mean, it's like, it's a little like a parody of one of the music videos you might have seen on the very first Death Is Just the Beginning compilation. It looks like it was recorded on maybe an iPhone 3, and it's the band being a bunch of silly geese. But nothing silly about the music. I mean, this is fucking badass stuff. I mean, is again, performances are tight, vocals are brutal, riffing is gnarly. I mean, I think if you're a fan of Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, or newer stuff like Undeath or Frozen Soul, I mean, you're probably listening to this and getting a little moist. But let's get back to it. It's definitely a very, very good time to be a fan of death metal, because I think no matter what style or what flavor of death metal you're down with, whether it's blackened death metal, whether it's stuff that's a little bit more avant-garde, or whether it's just kind of straight ahead, old school worship the way we just listened to now, I mean, you are absolutely spoiled for choice, because most bands, or not most, but there's a huge number of bands in the scene right now operating at a very, very high level. And just doing a sensational job of it. So, yeah, kudos to those guys. No surprise to see them signed to Relapse Records. That is very good stuff indeed. Okay, Ken Mode confirm European shows with Fange. Canadians Ken Mode. I've had Jesse on the podcast twice. And definitely will have him again at some point in the future. I'm actually scanning this to see if they're playing the UK, and dag nabbit they are. October 14th, they will be playing at. It doesn't look like they're giving the venue here, but unless it's like, oh no, sorry, it says Perpetual Flame Ministries. I have no fucking idea where that even is. Either way, it's probably some backlot somewhere, which is perfect for them. But that's a show I will do my level best not to miss. That is definitely going to be cool. Okay, let's see what else. Bees made honey in the vein tree. Fucking, again, add that to the list of idiotic names for bands. And then, of course, there's news here about Joel Lindholm. Obviously, I spoke to Svartalv about this. In case you had stepped out for a second when we were talking about that, of course, Joel Lindholm, bassist for Marduk, decided it would be a great idea for me at the end of one of our songs to do a Sea Heil on stage, because in 2023, that sort of thing really endears you to the global metal audience. So anyway, it says, or the exact band post following this malarkey. As a matter of fact, before we even read the band post, let's just watch the video for those of you on YouTube to see quite how egregious this was. Yeah, sadly, no mistaking it. You've got Mortis throwing the horns. Morgan is raising the guitar, and then Joel, the fucking idiot, is doing his little Sea Heil. And then the band posted the following a variety of intolerable stage antics by a very drunk Joel at Incineration Fest last week. He has vacated his position in the band. Our old friend and bass player Devo has agreed to step in on a temporary basis, so this is unlikely to affect any upcoming shows. I think you may have had a borderline Vulvadinia type situation backstage after that, because I know there's been some controversy about Marduk in the past, but I would suggest that because of that controversy, Morgan and the rest of the lads would have been extra pissed, because the last thing that they need, as a band already getting heat in various venues, worldwide where they go and play, is for a fucking simpleton like this to bring that sort of that sort of behavior, or connect that sort of behavior to the band. But they did the right thing. They fired the dude immediately. I mean, there was no discussion about it. They didn't try and protect him or say, oh well, he was drunk, and try and excuse it. They said, they do mention that he was drunk, but I mean, to them that's no excuse. The guy gets fired. So he's done the right thing, but I can almost assure you that the likes of Noob Heavy and that other clever fellow that wrote the list or compiled the extensive dossier of problematic black metal bands, where ironically every band he thought to be good was given the hammer and sickle rating versus the Nazi rating, which, I mean, I've spoken about that before, how ridiculous that is, but let's just take a second to reflect once again on the idiocy of looking at a symbol like the hammer and sickle and thinking that it is in any way different to the Nazis in terms of pure evil and pure senseless misery and bloodshed that it is spread across the world, and in my view continues to do. But be that as it may, I suspect those folks probably got so excited when this happened that a little PP came out, because they knew that this was to be their Twitter content for at least the next 2 to 3 weeks. With a lot of those folks, it wouldn't have mattered if Marduk, if Morgan took Joel outside and placed him in front of the firing squad, this would still be problematic and a symptom of a larger problem. So the thing for me is, right, we kind of touched on it, Svartalv and I. And I've thought about this many times, because people very often try and discredit that separating the art from the artist approach to listening to black metal, or listen to music, but listening to black metal in particular. But I'm going to stress again, like, if you go back across probably a good 200-300 years of history, whether it's visual artists, painters, sculptors, whether it's composers. I mean, Beethoven, by all accounts, was, a horrible human being. So was Vincent van Gogh, and the list goes on and on and on. To make art of a certain of a certain persuasion or express yourself artistically in a certain way takes a very extreme personality, and not necessarily a personality that is always going to be as well adjusted to the social mores of modern society as, frankly, it ought to be. And, the reality of it is, like, as we spoke, or as Svartalv and I were discussing about the Norwegian black metal scene, the Norwegian black metal scene was an expression of rebellion and anger and, frustration. And it kind of all culminated and turned into this, movement that almost became bigger than the music itself, at least for a period of time. But, it started from a place of danger. It was never meant to be anything other than dangerous and rebellious. So, for folks to expect people to, always toe the line behavior-wise, or actually not to expect, but to be shocked when some of these guys go off the rails, when things go, when they behave in a certain way or say certain things that, don't necessarily fit in with polite society, I frankly just think is naive. These people, they're doing this for artistic reasons, whether you like the art or not. This is how they're expressing themselves artistically. I don't think any of them ever set out to be anybody's role model, certainly. And I think if you do treat anybody in a band as your role model, then I think you're stupid. Because, we've also seen that all of these folks are infinitely fallible as human beings. And even as artists, they'll disappoint you, which is why I always think it's so stupid when people get tattoos of bands. Because, there was a period of time where, I was adamant that I was going to get the, Emperor E icon tattoo down my leg, and then Prometheus came out, and I went, thank fuck, I dodged that bullet. So anyway, I don't want to ramble, but I think you guys know what I'm driving at. Yeah, from my perspective, this is a done deal, but we know it's not going to be done. This will most likely haunt them for the next several years, and then the selective outrage will hop over to something else. But anyway, okay. Let's move on to the next song. It says here, Frightful have introduced a new guitarist. Polish death thrashers Frightful are pleased to welcome Eric Jakubczyk as their new permanent member in the ranks. I only picked that up because I saw Polish death thrashers, Polish death thrash, instantly interested, but there's no music to actually listen to, so we move on. Well done to the guy who's joined the band. I've never heard it before, but hopefully it's good. We've got a new track here by the Arcane Order, and we've liked everything that they've put out so far, so we're going to give this one a spin as well. But it says Children of Erebos, the newest advanced single from the Arcane Order's upcoming Distortions from Cosmogony full-length has surfaced online. Give it a spin down under. Yes, thank you, I will do that. That song started off well, but the last 10 seconds instantly elevates it. I mean, if we're giving this a score on a scale of 1 to 10, the start was a 7.5, and we're at 9. And right now, at the 41st second, we're in 9, maybe even 9.5 territory. That sounds fucking excellent.
Let's hear it, but cause of infernal curse.
So where that first single that we heard that I really liked kind of had a strapping young lad kind of vibe to it. This is got a very, very faint whiff of black metal. And when I say black metal, I mean like old school, 1992 black metal with that keyboard sound that they've got there. But again, it works really, really well. I'm very much looking forward to this record. Comes out June 9th, as I said. I think that sounds fucking excellent. Okay, let's do a couple more before we move over to the Headbanger's Guide to, not Headbanger, the Democrat's Guide to Rock Music. Hellwitch, Solipsistic Immortality track unleashed. Death metal veterans Hellwitch are premiering a lyric video for their newest single titled Solipsistic Immortality. The latter is part of the group's next studio record, Annihilational Intercession, due on June 30th via Listable Records. That's tier 4 stuff. As a matter of fact, I would call it JV. Is what that is. No fucking chance should a band like Necrofilosophy not be signed when that shit is signed. That was crap. I don't need to hear any more of it to know that the rest of it is going to be fucking unlistenable nonsense. All right, we move on. Inhuman Condition are releasing a new EP this summer. Let's see what else. A band called Gold, spelled GGOLDDD, have released a new single called I Let My Hair Grow. I mean, the name is fucking terrible, and I Let My Hair Grow also sounds terrible. It reminds me of that, what was that song? What was it called? One of Will Smith's kids did some song, I Let My Hair Whip or some nonsense like that. I mean, it was abysmal, but I'm now intrigued to know just how bad this is. So I'm gonna look for it on YouTube. Let's see. Here we go. We got it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm expecting something that's so bad here that it would rival Cardi B's WAP. So let's see if it's quite. Let's see if it reaches those depths of stupidity.
Nothing everything I must. I let my hair grow.
Oh my god. it's so it's actually not as shit as I thought it was going to be. It's not great, but you know, I can't exactly sit here saying it's a bunch of weak shit when, you know, I'm into I've recently gotten into stuff like Boy Harsher, which I blame fully on Mike Hill, because he always plays really interesting stuff at the end of Everything Went Black and Necromaniacs. And you know, he's had a couple of these you know, kind of like very stripped down, you know, women fronted goth bands, and Boy Harsher was one in particular that I really liked. That song's not horrible at all, actually. To be fair, I mean, if somebody played it in the background, I wouldn't mind it. It's no Arcane Order, let's put it that way. Okay, one more. Let's see if there's anything else that we may have missed. Oh, okay. Kvinga. I think that's how you may pronounce it. So just Slovene black metalers Kvinga are pleased to confirm that they've finished work on their next full-length effort. Recorded at Studio Toplica, it's expected to be released towards the end of this year. We can expect more details to be revealed soon. No song, though, but a picture of some corpse-painted men looking like they are not well adjusted to life. So we'll look forward to that. Nocturnal Breed, obviously we spoke about that before. Callisto are working on new material, don't care. Not bad to drop new track. Perfect one for us to close off our journey through Metal Storm and then head over to Blabbermouth. So it says here, Det Stormer in Norge, another advanced track from the Notverts forthcoming studio album. I Helvat's Forakt, due out on May the 26th, is out and available for streaming in the form of an official music video. Record label is Soul Seller Records. I actually think I might have had an email about Notvert being available for interviews. So depending on how good this is, might be sending an email straight after I do this recording. So you've got wolves chasing each other through the snow. You've got a very lo-fi recording, which sounds, but a lo-fi recording, but, one that still packs a bit of punch. Cool riffs, good vocals. It's no Mysterium, but I do like it. And I think everything else I've heard so far of this record has been pretty good as well. So let's get back to it. There's no mistaking who these guys are influenced by, that's for sure. And that break that we heard there, I'm generally speaking not as big of a fan of just off breaks like that, of sequences like that in songs, but I think partly because I've just heard it too much. And again, I think that there's things that are happening in black metal right now that I wouldn't go as far as to say it makes music like this redundant, because there's a huge audience for this kind of music, but it just doesn't necessarily have the impact on me that it may have had 20 years ago. That would be my observation of that. Good song, not completely blown away by it though. I may still send that email because I know that the legions will like it. Listen, I just also want to say thank you very much to everybody for the really great feedback on the Dragluin episode. Dragluin, of course, of the band Tudor. I can speak honestly to the Legion and say I was very, very close to not running that episode because I thought that it hadn't gone particularly well. And obviously don't share that with anybody, least of all the band. And I don't mean that as in any way to be disrespectful. He was a very nice guy, but just a, extreme introvert. And, as you can tell with this show, I do need a bit of feedback from the guys, for the conversation to get up and running. Not every, Norwegian man is quite as talkative as my man Svartalv. When I was done recording that, I actually sent Katie a message and I was like, thanks for getting it sort of set up, but, it was a real struggle to get 45 minutes out of this guy. And as I said, as I was editing it, I thought to myself, should I just shelve this and just not put it out? But I figured it had been recorded. I knew people, really liked Tudor. I love their music. So I thought, let me put it out, see what people say, and I'll just be honest with everybody about how I thought, it went. I think guys like that, it would be so much better to be able to sit down with them in person. I think you just get a lot more out of the conversation. But, I massively appreciate that people enjoyed it as much as they did. And like I said, it made me feel very good that you guys, gave me the positive feedback that you did and, made me think, okay, well, it was a good decision to actually put it out. So that's all I wanted to say on that, but thought I should mention it. Okay, let's go over to the Democrats' Guide to Rock Music, and let's see what's first. Avenged Sevenfold, one of the fucking worst bands on the face of the earth, making their first festival appearance in 7 years. Boo. Paul Di'Anno rips Ghost's cover of Iron Maiden's Phantom of the Opera. It fucking sucks. It says here, former Iron Maiden singer Paul Di'Anno has ripped Ghost's cover version of Maiden's Phantom of the Opera, saying it fucking sucks. Ghost's rendition of Phantom of the Opera was made available earlier this week as a preview of the band's Phantomime EP, which sees the Swedish occult rockers offering takes on Genesis's Jesus He Knows Me, Television's See No Evil, the Stranglers hanging around Tina Turner's We Don't Need Another Euro, alongside the aforementioned Maiden cover. I'm not going to bother listening to the song. You guys can go listen to it for yourself, but I have heard it, and I agree with Mr. Di'Anno. It is absolutely fucking terrible. And as much as I'm not the biggest Iron Maiden fan, that is actually a song I do like. So, and I could see on paper how that would be a track they would think would suit them and suit their style, but Ghost of 2023 is not Ghost of 2015. They had some interesting ideas back when they started. Nowadays, to me, they're just fucking garbage. We've got another article here on Marduk. It says here, Marduk guitarist has now blasted former bassist over deplorable behavior. Marduk's founding guitarist, Morgan Hawkinson, has distanced his band from the actions of former bassist Joel Lindholm, who appeared to make a Nazi salute on stage during a performance last week, blah, blah, blah. Morgan says, it says, a short time later, Hawkinson offered a brief comment to writer Hannes Lannerholm of the Swedish newspaper Expressen, saying that Lindholm's actions is obviously not something we accept. Asked why Marduk continued playing even after Lindholm's onstage gesture, Morgan told Expressen, I don't see what others do on stage. He added that the decision to fire Joel from the group was made when we saw the video, of course. I mean, what the fuck did this dude expect? Is Morgan supposed to stand, to the side of the stage, overseeing every single thing that goes on in the band, just in case somebody does something idiotic? Equally, I mean, what would have been worse? carrying on, finishing off the show and then booting the guy, or you know, punishing the fans who paid good money to see the band, you know, because of the behavior of you know, of one idiot. So anyway, Hawkinson went on to call Lindholm's actions deplorable behavior and added that it's not gratifying when you're working and someone doesn't behave and embarrasses themselves. And then, of course, Blabbermouth does what Blabbermouth normally does, which is to give us their crack journalism. You know, typically whenever they feature somebody who you can tell they don't like or they don't approve of, you know, whether it's the Nuge or whether it's Aaron Lewis of Stained or Morgan Hawkinson of Marduk, they will always have several paragraphs compiling all of their grievances against said artist at the end of the article. And yeah, they catalogue, in recent years, Marduk has been plagued by criticism for glorifying Nazi imagery and anti-Semitism, in part because of fascism-friendly album titles like Panzer Division Marduk, which refers to World War II era German tanks. So you're not allowed to sing about war if you're Marduk, but it's absolutely fine to do that if you're Slayer, Motorhead, or a vast trove of other bands through the years. The band's February 2017 concert in Oakland was shut down by the anti-fascist Action Bay Area group, who accused Marduk of being having white supremacist ties, and pointed out that Marduk's 2015 album Franschwein was written entirely about the Third Reich. Once again, a concept album about the Second World War. They're not allowed to sing about it, but several other bands are. Not to mention the fact that these are the same people that also said Milk is white supremacist. Hawkinson gave an interview in early 2014 in which he was asked to comment on the fact that the Norwegian black metal musician Varg Vikernes was convicted of hate speech against Jews and Muslims in France in 2014. And he commented, "It's strange that it's illegal to dislike a religion. I find it really strange when you can't have certain views." Again, I have no fucking idea what's wrong with that. You know, this again is from the same, you know, website and same people that don't bat an eyelid when somebody, you know, rails against Christianity, but God forbid you say something about another religion. That's wrong. In a 2013 interview with Metal Blast, Hawkinson spoke about the accusations of associations with National Socialism, which have been leveled at Marduk. I was not shocked because I'm not shocked at anything, but I was more surprised by the stupidity. It's strange that you can sing about certain historical topics, but not about others. Some big magazines tried to boycott us and were sending faxes back in those days to promoters telling them to avoid us, but that only made us stronger. I'm fascinated by certain historical aspects, and we will continue to write about them as long as it is inspiring to write lyrics about it. And if it's World War II, it's fine with me. If somebody has a problem with it, they can fuck off. Slayer, Motorhead, they have done it before, and I don't see a reason why not to do it. Now, it's rules for thee and none for me. You know, good for Morgan. I think he's behaved like the gentleman I know him to be throughout this whole fucking fiasco. Again, like I said earlier, it doesn't really matter that they fired the guy straight away, like that they handled it in the right way. This will, you know, the cancel mob are going to try to cancel. That's just all there is to it. Corey Taylor is ready to move on from his feud with Machine Gun Kelly. He and I are very similar in certain ways. You are, because it looks like neither of you can do more than 3 push-ups without reaching for the asthma inhaler. Cataclysm announces new album Goliath. No music here. Oh wait, no. Is there music? Yes. Looks like there is. We'll listen to it in a second. I will say about Cataclysm, they've always been, I've mentioned it before on the news rant, they've never been a band I've really liked very much. I thought that the EP, the very first EP they did, Sorcery, was pretty cool. And then the album that came after that, Temple of Knowledge, I fucking loved. I thought it was absolutely extraordinary. And it's still a record that holds up in my view. But everything after that, what a fucking shambles. You know, they are of the Flesh God Apocalypse mold to me, which is like a band that can sound super heavy without being in any way convincing. In my view, there are Melvin songs that are heavier than what these guys have probably ever recorded, with the exception of those 2 releases I just mentioned now. But earlier in this very segment, I was blown away by Evile, so let's hear what Bringer of Vengeance, the new single by Cataclysm, can offer us. That is a load of shit. I'm sorry. I know there's going to be a lot of people that like it, but that is fucking unlistenable crap as far as I'm concerned. You think about some of think about the quality of some of the death metal we've listened to on the News Rant in 2023 so far, and then you listen to that unimaginative drivel that we just heard now. They're not comparable. Yes, it's heavy. I mean, it's not. It's just there's just nothing to it. It's vapid. It's like comparing Fast and the Furious to The Exorcist 3. That's basically, that to me is the comparison that I would make between Cataclysm and 90% of the tier 1 death metal bands in existence today. It's just, again, I know people will like it, but to me it's fucking boring as hell. It's official. John Corabi rejoins the Dead Daisies best of album due in August. Yay. Tony Campos explains why Static X was never comfortable with a new metal label. That's, interestingly enough, the one interview that I don't get negative feedback on myself over. And for those that haven't checked that out yet, I think it was like episode 74 or something around there. But a lot of folks seem to take issue with the fact that Tony seemed to be a bit too cool for school in that interview. I didn't necessarily get that over the course of the conversation. He wasn't the most talkative dude, but anyway. UK Lord Mayor walks into Metallica's Eye of the Beholder at inauguration ceremony. I have to say, that is pretty cool. You were going to see why it's so cool in just a second, because even though we live in the 21st century, or we're reasonable way into, or actually nearly a quarter of the way into the 21st century, they're still wearing, when they have these, I don't know whether they call it swearing in ceremonies or whatever the fuck, but they still have these fucking pantomime clown suits on whenever they walk in, as you're about to see. So I know that this gentleman, Lord Mayor Tom Coles, is a Labour mayor, which, to me instantly means not somebody that I'm down with. And by the way, just before anybody, thinks otherwise, I'm also not down with the Conservatives or fucking the Liberal Democrats or pretty much any political party in all of the UK. As far as the UK is concerned, I am as politically homeless as a fucking bum on the street, or as a bum on Oxford Street. But politics aside, he does get a thumbs up from me for doing this. Let's watch.
Distinguished guests, please be upstanding for the right worshipful for Lord Mayor, Councillor Tom Coles.
The thing that to me is insane is, like I said, if you look at this, just look at that fucking stupid hat that he's wearing. It's literally like he's doing pantomime Peter Pan. He dressed as fucking Captain Hook. And whoever is controlling the music is obviously really nervous because they're making it louder and softer all the time. It's like, I don't know whether this is going to go down well with the constituents. Anyway, good for him. Too bad he's part of a political establishment that is an absolute joke. Folks, that is the news rant done for this week. That wraps up another episode of Into the Necrosphere. Thank you so much if you have stuck around until the very end. I've got a very special treat for you. Although, most likely, if you listen to this podcast, you already know this band, but I've been harping on about them so much over the course of the past couple of months, but obviously, especially in this last episode, I felt like I needed to play some music just to remind everybody what I've been saying about the man known as Seamoth, of Emperor, but also of the Wretched End. So I'm going to play out with one of my favorite tracks by the Wretched End. It's off their album Inroads, which I believe came out in 2012. The song is called Throne Renowned of Old. Proof That same author still has it without a shadow of a doubt. And if there ever was going to be another Emperor record, I do hope that we're going to hear his influence on it quite substantially. Remember to tune in next week for my conversation with Nathaniel Underwood of Damham. Thank you so much to Svartalv for his time on this week's podcast. Make sure you check out Nocturnal Breed. Make sure you check out Necrofilosophy. And whatever it is that you're doing, wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.
There has been a marked change in your activity. Begin subconscious teaching at this time. Do you remember any of the lessons? 1 and 1 are 2.